All right, we are live. Hello, YouTube. Welcome to 167, Roundtable 167 for Dark Tower Palaver. Yeah, it's we're already into September. I don't understand it. I don't. Although now my brain's broken, and now suddenly I'm feeling like it's October. Maybe it's because we went and saw The Conjuring.
Yeah.
Just feels like it should be spooky season full on. So I'm
Yeah,
like,
well, we also went and got lunch yesterday. When we walked out of the restaurant, usually it's like blazing hot, and it was like, oh, this is nice and refreshing. I kind of like this.
yeah, definitely. It's done with the summer. So let's go ahead and hit the intro and get started with the episode.
The Dark Tower by Stephen King. The man in black fled across the desert, and the gunslinger followed. Go then. There are other worlds than these. Death, but not for you, gunslinger. It's time we had our own palaver, I think, and it's going to take a while.
And yet, dauntless, the slug horn to my lips I set, and blew. Child Roland to the Dark Tower came.
We are content, one from many. Let the palaver begin. Boy.
Hello and welcome to Dark Tower Palaver. This is our podcast covering Stephen King's magnum opus, the Dark Tower series, and the extended Stephen King universe. My name is Tad.
And I'm Peter.
And we're here for roundtable number 167. We just had one of our 3-episode months, which means we've had 2 book clubs back to back. It always feels like it's been forever when we have that, even though it's really I guess there is technically a difference, right? Because the way that all crumbles out, it has actually been longer. But
Yeah,
it's still only been a month since our last roundtable, but it just feels like longer when you've got 2 book clubs. In
yeah, it
between
would have been
years,
even
so.
worse if we had done this episode on the regular day, like next week. It would
Yeah.
have been so much worse. It would have been like, we haven't done a roundtable for a while.
Yeah. So let me hit the intro stuff real quick. We'll hit a couple things, including the fact that we are early, of course. So first, I want to warn you about spoilers. This is a roundtable, so the spoilers for the entire Dark Tower series are going to happen. There may be some ancillary spoilers as well for some other King books. And then if you want to find the podcast, you can find us on Apple Podcasting, Spotify, Amazon Music, Audible, or any podcasting service of your choice. If you want to subscribe, rate, and review us on any of those, we'd appreciate that. And then if you want to follow us here live on YouTube and join us for the live streams and be part of the real-time conversation, or watching old live streams sometime in the future and watching old ones, that's totally fine too. That is over here at youtube.com/darktowerpalaver. It's always a good place to throw snake emojis in the chat for Peter so he can think about our beloved and fallen Ermot.
So wrong.
And then, of course, on the YouTube side, you are nuked by YouTube if you don't say like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications. That does help, of course, with the old, North Central Positronics algorithms and whatnot. And then if you want to find the show notes, you can do that at darkttowerpalaver.com. Everything we're covering in this episode, there will be links to it there, as well as it is the hub for all things Dark Tower Palaver. You have links for all the stuff that we're sharing here during the announcements, as well as things like March Insanity that's coming up a lot sooner than we actually think about, because we're already a good chunk of the way through the year. So all things Dark Tower Palaver are over there. And if you want to if you want to support the show, you can do that at patreon.com/darktowerpalaver. We just had our September hangout. We have monthly hangouts you have access to at any level of Patreon. You also have access to our Discord server, where you can send snake emojis to Peter on a Wednesday afternoon, for instance, if you wanted to. And then, of course, if you are at the highest level, you can co-host a show with us. And then if you want to contact the show and send us your Ermot remembrances, Peter can let you know the ways to do that.
Just stop with the Ermot stuff, seriously. You can email us at show@darktowerpalaver.com. You can also find us on our social medias. We got Threads and Instagram. It's Dark Tower Palaver, all one word, no spaces. And then check us out. We're on Blue Sky. It's at darktowerpalaver.bsky.social. And then we're on Twitter. It's at darktowerpod. That's at darktowerpod. And then our Facebook is facebook.com/darktowerpalaver. And then check out our merch, tpublic.com/users/darktowerpalaver. Get yourself a hashtag Tad is terrible shirt, sticker, pillow, tapestry.
We should get some Ermot.
No.
stuff.
No.
Agamorphy says in the chat, the irony of Peter showing a snake emoji in an attempt to avoid them.
There's a no snake there, so no.
I mean, you could always think that no thing could be another thing.
No snake.
You could use your
that's
imagination.
A no snake. No, Tad, that's a no snake. You stop it.
Where did I interrupt you there?
I'm done.
Or did you finish? Okay. See, I'm just sitting here waiting to interrupt you.
Yeah.
I mean, I could talk about, attacking children and, evil things like that. But, Ermont instead. We're still in our mourning period for Ermont. So
we're not.
we were just discussing it, too, on the Hangout yesterday that with where we're at in the book clubs, we might get Char-Yu-Tree this year.
Yeah.
If not, there's a chance it'll end up being the very beginning of next year. And what a way to start 2026 with Char-Yu-Tree in the book club series. So that's coming down the pike. We're getting very close to the end of that book, or also specifically that's the flashback section. There's actually a lot more of the book that goes back to Roland's the present than I would ever normally think. Like, of course, I remember there's some stuff there, but I would have guessed it was like 5% or so of the book that was after the story, and no, it's not. With the way it's lining up, there's a good chunk of stuff left after that. So we got that. We are, of course, here a week earlier than we would normally be. That is because I am getting very old, and I'm turning 40, and going on vacation to ring in the 40th birthday. Not sober in any way.
Tropical paradise.
Yes, getting in a swim up bar pool and just get a buzz at breakfast and don't stop until I go to bed. So that's the only way to ring in the 40s, I think. Although I might regret it. Although I guess when you're drinking pretty much constantly, it's like the hair of the dog that bit you.
Yeah.
As long as you keep drinking, you don't get a hangover. So there's that. And then as well as I also wanted to call out, we are less than a month away from our 10-year anniversary as a podcast. Yeah. October 3rd is the date that we've deemed as like the start of. When you look at some of our profiles and stuff, some of it existed months before, as we obviously prepped the show in advance. But the first episode was posted on October 3rd, 10 years ago in 2015. So, which is wild, which about this time 10 years ago, we were getting all of our ducks in a row, getting websites put together, getting, all the emails, all that kind of stuff. And we were on our way
Is that the first time we recorded?
We recorded pretty much around Labor Day,
and then,
I think.
And then we edited, and I think we even recorded like 2 episodes to start. And then you edited them because we weren't live then.
Yeah, no, we weren't live for a year or so.
So the birthday is when you published it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because that seems to be the most fair in such a nebulous thing where you've got this long track of things that happen. But that's pretty cool. And we will not have an episode aligned with that. The episode we have will be a week and a day, I think, after our anniversary, when we'll be back for our next roundtable.
Yeah.
168. All right. So that is all the intro stuff. And then, of course, like I said, year end is coming up soon. Yeah. So year-end bash, we're probably going to be in the next episode or 2, we're probably going to start throwing out the challenge for March Insanity. We got to get that going. So what we usually do is try to hammer down the topic by the final episode of the year, and then we do we do that earlier, and then we try to get all the nominations before.
We usually announce it what the topic's going to be in December. Either the year-end bash, or if we have a roundtable before that, maybe November.
That's what it is. Then January we take for incoming.
January is the intake, and then we start
February, get everything organized, and then starts March 1st.
And then the reveal the episode before March 1st. So.
Yep. So that is what we got. Let's go ahead and jump on into the news, which there is plenty. And this is definitely one that may seem strange to start off with, but if you know what? I didn't realize I didn't have the right thing up, so I guess that already changed the screen. So it's all good. So the first one here is titled Not Clowning Around. And it is from Amanda Bell from TV Insider on August 29th, 2025.
Nice.
So the article started off by teasing the return to Derry with the upcoming show Welcome to Derry, and recapped how Andy Muschietti knew that he left a lot of things on the cutting room floor after his 2 films and got King's buy-in to do a series. It also revealed that the first, so this is something we've kind of speculated on, but he confirmed in this article that the first season's main plot is actually the Black Spot. So we've
Okay.
seen some images of that in the trailer and stuff. We've had some suspicions that, especially with the reverse order where we got 1960 whatever it is, and then 1930 something, then like 1908.
Yeah.
With if they end up getting all 3 seasons, because right now we only have the 1 season greenlit. Hopefully it's successful enough to justify more seasons, because it sounds great. We've had some speculation that there's like a lot of historical events, whatever. But with this kind of reveal, I guess, again, we'd already kind of seen the imagery. We also suspected there may be like some of these big moments that we've seen in the book that were like historic events. But the fact that they're now saying the black spot is like the central story point, and I'm sure there's going to be some other spider-webbed topics that come out of that happen around that.
Yeah.
But the fact that that's the core thing, I guess the speculation now would be, or what do you suspect the core story element will be for the 1930s one and then the 1908 one? Again, if the black spot being an indicator of like, I think we're going to see some other historic events probably throughout these different
'cause
seasons.
the thing
but there's like the main event one, right? The turkey
Well,
on
there's
turkey on the dinner table.
Well, remember, there's one to start and one to end.
Yeah,
So that's the thing we got to remember is the black spot a start or an end? I'm assuming it's going to be an end based off of the trailer, that there's kids missing. There's a lot of missing posters. It doesn't make me feel like it's a beginning event. So it makes me feel like it's an end event of a cycle.
Yeah.
So if we're at the end of a cycle, we're looking at potentially seeing what puts Pennywise to sleep.
yeah,
So if you're, but back to your question, 30s is going to be the Bradley Gang. 1908's got to be the Kitchener Ironworks, right?
yeah. It could be.
Or would you flop those?
I don't remember the dates in terms of what they actually took place in the book, but like, I mean, I think those like, well, at least the Kitchener Ironworks has got to be the main thing for the 1 season. The Bradley Gang, I don't remember well enough if that's like big enough to be like the driving story, or if that's just something that's going to happen in one of the, cause like, I'm not saying that it won't happen, but I guess like when you almost see like the central piece of the season, because I kind of have a feeling that if the black spot ends up being the finale, you're going to basically be building towards that the entire season, to where like you might get images of it, you might get hints of it, you might get look at the racial tensions and all like, and so like just to where like if you're a reader, we're going to know where we're headed, right? We know what that culmination is going to be, and the whole season is going to be kind of built around that. There's going to be a lot of stories to be told, but then I just kind of wonder if that's what we're going to have as kind of a main event, quote unquote, for each of the 3 seasons. You think the Bradley Gang is enough to compare with the Black Spot and the Kitchener Ironworks?
I think it is, when you think about the fact that this is a perfect example of the evil of Derry. When you look at the Kitchener Ironworks and the fire at the Black Spot, neither of those really makes... I mean, the fire at the Black Spot does, but the Kitchener Ironworks was just a tragic accident. There was no malicious intent there. There's no really showing like the evil of Derry, which is of course one of the main plots of it, is to show that Pennywise hasn't just corrupted, Bowers and Belch and a couple.
Yeah.
He's infected the entire town.
Yeah.
And that's what Bill realizes, is that it is Derry and everything. So when you realize that and you think about how terrifying it is, the old man getting up, putting his newspaper down, and walking inside when Bev needs help, and everything like that. Bowers not caring about the butcher, I think is who it is, that tries to stop him from hurting Eddie, and everything. That's where you get that Derry is evil, and I think that the Black Spot can definitely showcase that, because you have the racial tensions. You already mentioned that.
Yeah.
You have the KKK basically coming and just burning the Black Spot down, and that's the tragedy. The Bradley Gang's the same thing. It's just a flat-out massacre.
Yeah.
There's women with the Bradley Gang there, and in the 30s and everything like that, to have them just get gunned down in the street like dogs.
Yeah.
Like, they don't even like, hey, Bradley, give up. No, they just step out and just start shooting. Hundreds of rounds, maybe thousands of rounds go into those 2 cars, and you got 2 or 3 women in those cars, and especially for back then, that's just unheard of, just to unload that amount of ammo from civilians. These aren't even cops and everything like that. So I think that it may be a little bit lesser than the Kitchener Ironworks or the Black Spot, but you also have to remember is that we have a logging town, and there is the massacre at the Silver Dollar. I just remembered that one. That could be 1908.
And I do hope that I do hope that we get some flash in some point to show like the colonial thing,
the
lost
Roanoke colony.
Yeah,
story.
like that.
Yeah.
That'd be cool too. I just don't see how that fits in our timelines here.
Claude Hero Agamorphy is the name of the Canuck at the bar.
I don't remember that.
It's the guy who walks in with the axe and just
Oh,
goes to town.
yeah, there you go.
So you have that one. You have the disappearance. So if you take the Bradley gang and you button in it with the Kitchener Iron Works, so the cycle starts in 1929 and ends in 1930. Starts with the Bradley gang, ends with the Kitchener Iron Works. You could do the Claude Hero one and then make up one for the other end of that one, or just not show it. You don't have to show everything, you know.
Yeah,
But
yeah, because I mean we don't see the start in the movie or miniseries, right?
Yeah, Georgie's the start.
Is it not usually a bigger start than one? Like
It's-
I know that's like it's
it's-
the inciting element for our story, so it's like it's the most meaningful. But
The
like
start usually starts with a extremely violent death or deaths, not necessarily a whole group, and then ends with a tragedy. So Kitchener Iron Works, the slaughter of the Silver Dollar.
oh yeah,
and
because
the-
Adrian Mellon was the start.
Adrian
too.
Mellon was the start of
Yeah.
the 1985 one.
So we got a quote from Andy here. Andy Muschietti says
Yeah.
it's a big paroxysm. That's a hard word to say, of violence that not only reflects the darkness of the story in the book, but also a bit of reflection of the violence that is happening in America and all the implications of racial tensions and segregation that happened back in those days.
Yeah.
So that's kind of adds to it. So again, if you're going to build towards the black spot, like I feel like with that being said, I think you can almost visualize what the season's probably going to look like.
Yeah.
Especially because we've already pretty much had it said that Hanlon's family moving in is going to be like one of the earlier things we see is Mike Hamlin's parents with young Mike Hamlin, I think, moving in to Derry.
No, it'd be Mike Hanlon's dad. Because Mike is in the 80s. So it'd be his dad moving in. It's his father moving into then. The time doesn't line up there. If it's in the 60s, Mike would be in his 20s in the 80s.
Oh, either way, we got Hamlin's
Yeah.
moving in, so I have a
I think they're
feeling
switching it up to where it's grandpa is moving in instead of dad. In the book, it's the dad.
Yeah, it says in the series center, Charlotte and Leroy Hanlon moved to the town right as the
Yep.
new wave of disappearances begin. So I do think that, I kind of have a feeling that that'll be our main characters. We'll probably, I'm sure we'll have a large group
It's
of people,
the-
but I think that's probably who our main point of view characters will be.
I think you're 100% right because in the trailer we see them like moving in and it's like the mother says hi. What did they say the names were?
Charlotte and Leroy.
Charlotte says hi, and that prissy white woman walks past with her dog and doesn't say a word back. So it's like you said, like the racial tensions that it's already shown in the trailer there.
Yeah.
But I think this is going to be a perfect one. I love stories like this where it's someone being introduced to a world.
Yeah.
And that's what we're going to have here is the Hanlons are going to be introduced to Derry.
Yeah. Yeah. So moving on here, we have seen, but this also talks about the fact that we're going to be getting a young Dick Halloran is also going to be a prominent character. It mentions that,
Yep.
which makes sense with the black spot.
Yep.
Because we know that he was tied to that.
Yep.
It also says, unlike previous adaptations where Pennywise preyed on the personal fears of his victims, Muschietti looked to draw on the period itself for inspiration. And then we have a quote here. Andy says, "There's a new set of horrors, a collective fear, which is very tied to the era. In 1962, America was in the middle of the Cold War, and people are very aware of the nuclear threat. There's a whole genre of movies from the late 50s which have to do with radioactive creatures that mutated and turned into monsters.
Yep.
And also all the drills in the schools for what would we do during a nuclear attack. So I think kids were terrified of this thing. So that's kind of an interesting wrinkle on it. Is like that early because I mean, yeah, the Cold War still exists in the 80s, but like, did it really?
It didn't feel like it. I mean, I didn't.
Not in the serious sense that it did in the 60s, right?
No. Like there's a reason that there was a rash of suicides with the Cuban Missile Crisis. There wasn't anything close to that in the 70s or 80s.
Yeah.
And especially the 80s when you started to see the Soviet Union started to look a little teetery.
More wobbly.
Exactly. You know, like you're looking, especially like late 80s, you're looking at the events of Chernobyl and the embarrassment behind that and everything. So it's like, other things also happened. You obviously know this, being such a history buff, that by 1987, people are just like, Russia,
Yeah.
Soviet Union, whatever.
Yeah. So I do have, that kind of makes me wonder what creatures might Pennywise look like. What radioactive.
There's
Nuclear
a good choice
creatures.
there. Yeah. Also, I would love to see him utilize. He mentioned it, the bombing scare scene where you
Yeah.
have to get under your desk in the event
duck and
of
cover.
I would love to see that, where it's the Hanlon's boy's first time doing it, and he's like, "Oh my god, like this is insane! Like he hasn't done one before," because they come from a small town where it's not practiced and everything. Well, I guess Derry's still a small town, but
Yeah.
he does it, and he gets under the desk, and he looks over, and there's just a fucking clown. And he's like, like overturns his desk, and his teacher gets all mad at him or something.
Yeah, it could be. So another quote here, quote, "Some are based on things that are more universal and things that are more particular. And the particular ones are the ones that creep me out." And then that's the end of his quote. And it goes on and says, without spoiling who or what those are, let's just say fans should brace for some extreme body horror in the early episodes.
Oh, damn.
I mean, we did have that thing that talked about the giving birth violently in the car.
Yeah.
So that's very body horror, and I just wonder what else we might be getting there. So,
Oh boy.
Muschietti
As
along
long as it's not a hand coming out of the woman. Like
the First Omen.
the first Omen, yeah.
It's great.
No.
Muschietti, along with his sister Barbara and Jason Fuchs, are going to take this show as a chance to dive deeper into the mythology of it. Quote, "The purpose of the show, among others, is to open the window to the other side and give audiences the feel of everything they know about the books and stories and movies. And give the audience the feeling that everything that they know about the books and the stories and the movies are just the tip of the iceberg." So, growing some mythology. I like that, because I think that's one thing that some of us readers might have complained with the both adaptations that have happened up to this point, is you really lose a lot of the larger elements and story driving things that are in it have been kind of cut out of both versions of both adaptations now. And here is why we have it at the very top here. So this next quote from Mr. Muschietti says,
Okay.
"Everything that's on the other side, it's connected to the Dark Tower." So having Mr. Muschietti mention the Dark Tower, because it's the same universe, the Macroverse. Of course, being it, we're going to see all of this from the perspective of humans, mostly, which that's an interesting thing to say, mostly. In this series, there will be more. There will be more than speculation, because we did get a little speculation on things in his versions. We're going to have to give that, or we're going to have that, and give the audiences a glimpse of the other side. So we're going to be seeing some Todash darkness.
The Deadlights, inside the Deadlights with the ritual of Chud.
Yeah.
You
Yeah, just to hear him mention the Dark Tower, I mean, that's why we're covering this right at the top of the show here. I mean, for one, I would just pause to say, like, with Flanagan in the offing with the Dark Tower thing.
Yeah.
Imagine if the two of them were planning out just not like a massive like crossover or anything, but it's just a matter of like, hey, I know you're doing the Dark Tower.
What color boots does Roland wear? Something like that.
Or because I don't know if it'll actually be full on Dark Tower, or if it's going to be like Maturin, if we're going to see like Todash, darkness and like things like that. I don't know that we'll actually see anything that's like as deeply rooted as like Roland or whatever. But I think we're going to be seeing some of the more macroverse elements from the Dark Tower. And just to hear him actually, because I don't think I've ever heard Andy Muschietti mention the Dark Tower before.
No.
I mean, we've tracked that over the almost 10 years we've been doing this show. Like, I mean, we've talked about musicians, we've talked about any number of people that have mentioned the Dark Tower. And if my memory could be failing me, but I don't remember Andy Muschietti ever necessarily coming up. Of course, he's talked about Maturin in some interviews and stuff, but like usually that's always through the paradigm of it, which Maturin appears. Like this is the first time that I could recall that he's actually overtly mentioned the Dark Tower, and there is just part of me that geeks out to that, where it's just like, imagine if he calls it Flanagan, it's like, oh, so if you're going to do this, like what could I do here to help alley-oop you for, and of course we wouldn't see that for years, because we wouldn't get to some of this stuff that would cross over to it until probably the last quarter of the Flanagan series. So but still though, I mean, there's just an element
exciting
here.
It is. We're going to be watching Welcome to Derry, just be like,
Yeah.
magnifying glass. Where is it?
Yeah.
Where's my Dark Tower reference?
Not just a Lego turtle and not just a unseen turtle under the water. We want to see some full-on Maturin in this.
Yeah.
Let's go. Come on. And then he goes on and says, I'm very, very happy to be back. This is kind of changing the subject a bit, but then he says, I'm very, very happy to go back to Niebolt. It's not only a house, it's also a gateway to its lair. It appears in season 1 and has new meaning. Muschietti teases.
Watch them live on Niebolt Street.
The Hamlets move into that actual house.
I don't think they move into the house. I think they move in on the street, though.
You don't think anyone will live in the house, though?
No, it's got to be abandoned. It's too evil to live in. I mean, we've been inside it.
That was fun.
It was fun.
That was fun. And then Andy teases that if the series is picked up for its planned second and third seasons, the show will dive deeper into the history of the house, specifically who built it, how it became such a horrific entity. Those would obviously be set in 1935 and 1908. That's been previously revealed. So, that's that is kind of an interesting thing. We're going to get more Niebolt, which I don't know. I guess I wasn't necessarily suspecting going into this series. Like, there's a lot of stuff I'm like, yeah, I can't wait to see, but I don't know why Niebolt Street never entered my mind as like a possibility of like a big set piece for this show. So
yeah,
I don't know.
I mean, Niebolt it's interesting because Niebolt does get chopped in my wife and I finally watched the 1990 It series.
Yeah. How'd that go, by the
just
way?
a couple days. Yeah, I guess we could talk about that. We're talking about it. She loved it. She accepted it.
Loved it?
No. She loved the show. She accepted it for what it was and definitely saw that there was potential for better.
Yeah.
And everything, especially the second half and the conclusion, the finale and everything. But she really thoroughly enjoyed Tim Curry's performance, got creeped out at the appropriate times and freaked out with everything. So.
Yeah. Pretty strong open with Georgie too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's good. It is definitely a good solid.
Or is that the opening,
there.
or is it the little girl first? I remember the
little
girl.
The little girls first.
Yeah, I remember the little girl part, but I didn't remember
Yeah.
if that was before or after Georgie. So
It's before even the main credits and everything.
yeah,
So.
yeah, I remember that it was before the credits, but I thought it could have even been Georgie and then like that tease with her and then the title card, because I remember it goes from the little girl thing and the sheets and then it cuts to the title. I remember that. I don't know why that. I think it's because like that doesn't really pay off. You don't see like that girl like overtly attacked on, and that's like because it roughly cuts to like the title card, right?
The mom comes out and is like, don't scare me now, and then she screams, and then it cuts, and then you see the body getting loaded into the back of the ambulance. There's the covered figure on the stretcher, and it's child size. So you know that she dies. So.
I mean, yeah, there's no doubt about that.
Yeah, and then Hanlon calls Bill, and Bill remembers Georgie, and then the title card hits.
Yeah. So did you guys have to take any breaks?
I mean, there was a couple bathroom breaks, but there was no. I need a minute. There was none of that.
Okay. So we're getting her to come around on clowns. Is what you're saying?
No, we're not getting her to come around on clowns. I'll tell you that right now. No, we did not get her to come around on clowns. But she is very excited to watch the movies now.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Then I got to talk to her about going down to escape it.
I wonder
what Hato's doing that weekend.
See if we can get Hato down there too. Yeah. And then the last thing I have here, I'm just tacking it onto this article, independent of this article, a couple days ago, because this article was back on the 29th, so it was a little over a week ago. But a few days ago, it was confirmed officially that Welcome to Derry will be premiering on October 26th.
Okay.
So we had that last trailer that we covered on the last roundtable that said October, and that was our first solidified thing, that because it was just kept saying like fall or something like that, or end of the year, or maybe it was even just it was all very vague. And then that last trailer said October, and now we finally have the announcement that October 26th is the actual premiere date for Welcome to Derry.
Good.
So
okay.
Looking forward to that. Let's see. Going on here, we got a kind of a new King writing project.
Okay.
So this one's titled Extra Extra. Stephen King returns to post-pandemic apocalypse with Benjamin Percy's The End Times at Bad Hands Books. This is by Josh Weiss from Forbes on August 11th, 2025. So the article starts off by quoting Glenn Bateman from The Stand, talking about how humans are social animals. They'd want to gather back up, if for no other reason than to tell stories of how they survived the super flu. Acclaimed writer Benjamin Percy, and it says the Sky Vault is apparently something he worked on previous, is taking the idea and running with it to create a serialized novel titled The End Times, and he has Stephen King as a contributing writer.
Oh, okay.
So, and then we have a lot of quotes from the CEO of this Bad Hand book, which is Doug Morano. And he says, in the era of bingeable series on Netflix and being able to have everything at your fingertips all at once, you're going to be able to have a little bit of anticipation. And he's talked to this writer over the phone. It's kind of a throwback, honestly. You're going to have to wait for the next issue, which I understand could be a downside for some readers, but I also think that it's part of the joy and the fun for formats like this. You have to wait to see what happens next. So the post-apocalyptic narrative will be released in installments every week over the course of a year, starting in November. And it takes from a fictional newspaper run by a woman who discovers an old printing press 12 years after the pandemic nearly destroys human civilization.
12 years, okay.
Yeah. So, of course, as a King fan, I know that both The Gunslinger and The Green Mile have both been released in serialized forms in their original releases. So this isn't necessarily unique for King. And, of course, this isn't necessarily King's product. This is somebody else, but King is involved. But King fans, we Dark Tower fans, of course, know The Gunslinger was released over 4 parts in a magazine. And then The Green Mile was parsed out in a serialized fashion and then collected in a novel later on as bound together in a novel. Same as The Gunslinger, I guess. But I think with the Gunslinger, I don't think King ever knew that it would become a novel. Right, yeah. He was just writing it for a magazine. Whereas The Green Mile, he would have known in the 90s, this is going to end up being a novel. Yeah. He was kind of being unique with how it was being released to people. So Morano goes on and says, Ben's remarked to me that it's basically influenced by the world of The Stand. So I think it's a really good fit for Stephen to play in that playground in a little bit of a different way. Ben, and then going on, another quote here, Ben thought, and rightly so, that Stephen King would be interested in doing something like this. And so they're off to the races with it. They've been exchanging ideas, articles, snippets, and things like that. I've kind of just let them take it where they want to go with it. So then they have a snippet in the article. So if you want to, again, check the show notes at darktowerpalaver.com and you can find the link to it and go check it out. But they have a snippet which basically shows that it's going to very much be looking like an actual small town paper. It's going to have things like editor's notes, birth announcements, classified ads, an event calendar, and even an advice section. And the part they share shows the advice on how to jar your own pickles, which I don't know why anybody would want to do that. Disgusting things, pickles. But then it goes on to as it goes on, it reveals it will reveal more of the story, and it will include a guest column where that's where King's writing will show up. So. Quote from what I've seen so far, Stephen King is going to be writing via a character or characters. They'll be featured throughout the run. I'm not entirely sure exactly where each of his articles will land. But my perception of what they're trying to do is build a storyline with a certain character or characters writing into the end times. So it'll be that kind of thing. Characters writing into it. So that'll be kind of interesting. And then it goes on. It helps the project itself take on the topic of. It'll also take on the topic of misinformation in the news, which I think is really important to a lot of people right now. They're going to, and this is again Morano speaking. They're going to. There's going to be a portion of this project where you only hear from the cult that wants and what they want you to hear. Apparently, there's a cult that rises up in the ashes of the end of the world here. It's going to allow readers to confront a lot of issues that are happening in actual journalism right now in terms of the importance of getting the real story, the importance of doing things in good faith, and the danger of what happens when you don't have responsible actors in place of power. And then the final bits here, it will eventually be released as a book, but to start, it's going to be distributed in 2 ways. The first, they're actually going to do 500 newspaper copies. It's actually being printed by a small town newspaper. Sadly, those are already all sold out, but they will actually send out legitimate newspapers that will have it all broken out. And then there will be PDF issues as well. So if you want to sign up digitally, you can do that, and they'll send you a PDF issue of the each paper each week. The digital subscription costs $15, and they've said that once they hit 500 signups, they pledge to donate a portion of the money to go to the ACLU to support freedom of speech and journalism. That's kind of interesting. It's kind of like the Hansel and Gretel thing that actually is just about to drop as well. We covered that a few episodes back, where they have a guy that is since died, but he did some animations decades ago for Hansel and Gretel, and they basically brought King on to write the kind of the text to go along with these kind of horror type images of Hansel and Gretel. That we covered a few roundtables back, so a few months back, but that's about to drop as well. So there's some of these like weird, like non-traditional King ways to get King writings, and this will be another one. So, and I kind of like it. Apparently, from what I understand, reading into it a bit, this Bad Hand books, they tend to do a lot more strange things. Like, in fact, when they mention the fact that they're actually going to publish it as a book and it's actually going to be in bookstores and stuff, he's like, don't let that make people think that's a fan of us already that we're changing. Like, so it sounds like they're not ones that traditionally get stuff that actually gets into like Barnes and Nobles or local bookstores and stuff. They're a little bit more like I don't know if I want to say avant-garde, but they're a little bit more like
unique,
unique guerrilla style. They do things that are just not normal, and obviously what we're hearing about the way this is going to break out, that fits them very, very well. But I have a feeling that it says acclaimed writer Benjamin Percy, and the fact that Stephen King's there probably makes them think like they'd be idiots not to actually collect all this at the end, bind it together, and sell it, because come on.
You should, yeah.
So I think I might end up signing up for that PDF version.
Are you going to?
Yeah, I think so. I think that sounds really fun. I always love like unique storytelling. Like, one of my favorite sets of movies was those ones that they did where it was all through the computer screen. They've done 3 of them now, if I remember right. I forget do you remember what I'm talking about? I forget the name of the first one. Like, literally everything you see is the person's computer screen, and they're like trying to find, I want to say the first one was the guy trying to find his missing daughter.
Yeah, isn't that Parasite?
No,
that's different.
Yeah,
I always think it's Parasite.
No, there's I believe there's
like a social something, but it's not. Parasite's the Korean film. This one's an American one, right?
They're not anything similar at all. Yeah. Parasite's completely.
No, I know.
Yeah.
It's just I always mix those two up because they came out around the same time.
Yeah, no, this one is, and I think there's 3. I know there's at least 2, but I'm even getting confused now whether the second one was the one maybe with the daughter and the dad trying to find the daughter. But either way, I loved those because they were just so unique for like, like how Searching was the first one, yes. And then there was a follow-up. It's not the same characters, I don't think. There was maybe a slight crossover, but there was another one they did where it was like literally the entire thing, everything you saw was on the screen. Like, if they wanted to show you something on a street, you were on the website looking at a traffic camera. So it's kind of like almost like a new twist on found footage. But I always love those kind of things where they actually like tell stories in a different ways, and this sounds like that in a book sense. So
it's the same thing as what I've said before, is like I like when they take established like legends and put a little twist on it.
Yeah,
like,
or even the zombie one where it's a how-to guide of how to survive. Like, that's
the zombie survival guide by Max Brooks.
Yeah, like I was blank on the title, but it's like that. It's like to take, rather than just like taking it and making it something like kind of dumb and bland. It's like no, we're gonna make it like it's a how-to book, and it's just like that's such a cool spin because it's like
Missing was the sequel.
Missing's the other one, and if I remember right, there's a third one, and maybe it's the third one's in development, but I believe there was going to be another one because the other 2, for one, they're fairly cheap to make. I mean, of course, there's still some stuff they have to film or whatever, and they have actors and stuff because they'll do like what do you call it? Not Skype anymore. I don't want to sound like an old person. Zoom's the new one. Yeah, yes. I couldn't remember the name of the fucking Zoom. Or the other one that reminds me is Host. The horror movie that came out in 2020 where it's a seance over Zoom, which I will say it's a short movie. I want to say it's barely an hour. If it's an hour, it's barely an hour. But I will say highly recommend. That is a great not possession, but like haunting type movie. So I love that, and I love this. I'm really excited for this. Telling it through the perspective of a newspaper. You know what it reminds me of is what's the biker show that King had a role in?
Sons of Anarchy?
Yeah. Is that what it was? Even though it's like one of the only things that King's ever been in that had nothing to do with him. Like, he didn't like
was
write
he in that?
Yeah, he was like I don't know if he was a recurring character, but he was a character in that. I think it was
Stephen King made a guest appearance on the show Sons of Anarchy in season 3.
Yeah. So that kind of this reminds me of that a little bit because it's like this isn't really King's world. Also, I will use this as a point to say also The End of the World as We Know It, the new spin-off of The Stand, where they have a bunch of different authors writing essentially expanded expanding the world of the Stand. That is now out, so you can
Yeah.
you guys, everyone can go buy that. I can't remember if I bought it yet or if I'm going to buy it here though, because just wrapped up the Stand.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what perfect thing to do now than just to go dive into
Go
that.
expand
so.
it. Cody says that Stephen King played a cleaner. He comes and cleans up a dead body.
Oh, okay, like Mike from Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
It's fitting, but I just love that, and this just gives me that vibe, just because again,
Yeah.
it's not like this isn't the Stand, this isn't like the end of the world as we know it, where this guy has like one section of it. He's like, I'm
Yeah.
going to do it like a newspaper, and one of my clippings of the newspaper is going to be Stephen King writing as a character. Like,
Yeah.
then it's like okay, then it's like seated inside of a Stephen King thing. But this is like, even though it feels related to the Stand, it's not.
I'll take
I
the
love
moment
it.
to trumpet it again. I know that you still haven't listened to it and or read it. Is World War Z, the sequel basically to the Zombie Survival Guide, where it's a
Yeah.
bunch of interviews with humans who survived the zombie war.
Yeah.
So that one again.
I can't let the terrible movie ruin the book.
No,
for me,
the
'cause
movie
that's-
the movie has absolutely nothing to do with the book. So just read the book, Ted.
Yeah, you know what they should do is do a YouTube series for the Zombie Survival Guide. Imagine them doing like, because think
Yeah.
about like that, the how-to videos and shit
Yeah.
you see where it's just like this, like the folksy guy where it's like, oh, if you didn't grow up with a dad, I'll teach you all the shit your dad should have taught you.
Yeah,
Like
just-
videos like that,
dude,
but it's
you
like
just have it in a garage, right? And the guy's like, "Look, I'm going to show you how to survive because this is unprecedented times. Look, this is what's happening." And he picks up the camera and he shows it because there's like the windows at the top of the garage, and he shows the garage,
Zombies
and there's
out there.
zombies out there. Like, but it's still just the guy. Like, look, this is how you take a hockey stick and fashion a saw blade onto it, and then show him actually like doing it.
Yeah.
That would be fantastic.
that would be the best way to adapt that, because it is a how-to guide, so it wouldn't make sense to actually try to make a narrative film out of that. That would be kind of
Yeah.
stupid. Although there's dumber ideas that have been out there, like the Stretch Armstrong movie that apparently they've tried to write for 35, 40
Yes.
years. But yeah,
I actually had a thought about World War Z, but I'm going to save that for Geekery. That's more.
I think
Geekery
that's short too. I think that's the only reason I've never pulled the trigger on the audiobook. I want to say it's under.
The unabridged one is 14 hours. So,
Okay. So-
that came out actually because I tried to get you to read just the book itself because that's how I initially had it, and when I tried that, you had just barely gotten into Audible.
Yeah.
And so you went and looked at the audiobook, and they only had the abridged version, which was only like 6 or 7 hours.
Yeah.
They have the unabridged version
Can't waste
now.
a credit on that, sir.
They have the unabridged version now, and it is 14 hours. I just re-listened to it again.
Yeah.
And that's where I had a thought about that. And it's a topic I'm saving for our other show over on Geekery Abides. So
Okay. So next up, in prep for the upcoming Long Walk, which comes out next week. So
wait, it's next week?
It is. I was thinking you and I, before, I think we might be able, if we could potentially get something figured out before I leave on my trip.
You
if we
have
wanna go see
Thursday
it.
off.
Yeah.
I work Thursday, but after
Thursday night, Friday, something. Well, there's a couple days. I mean, of course, I'll have a lot going on because I'm going to be prepping for a trip. But there is part of me that's like, I would like to get that watched before I move off to the old.
we know how fast movies move out of our theater sometimes because it is a little bit smaller.
It's a smaller theater, yeah. But in prep for that, King did an AMA on Reddit and asked me anything.
Oh, did he really?
So
Nice.
this was on the movies subreddit on 8/22. So I just grabbed a couple highlights, some fun ones here. The first one, hey, Mr. King, huge fan. My question for you today is, why did you go with 4 miles per hour in the book? And his response, at the time I thought that was walking speed. I suggested JT Molnar change it to 3 miles per hour in the movie, and they did. More realistic, but in my own defense, there was no internet or chat bots of any kind in 1967.
To check it, yeah.
When he wrote that. So, in fact, I will say I can't say that there's not one time in my life I've been on a treadmill and I've set it to 4 miles per hour just to see what that's like, and yeah, there's no way.
I should do that.
I would be dead inside of an hour for
Yeah.
sure. So,
I mean, we both were. We're not in athletic shape at all. No offense.
but it's not a walk. I feel like it's more of a brisk, like a joggish is almost more what 4
Yeah.
miles per hour is. But again, no blaming him. 1967.
Yeah.
What would he know? Next, the next one here, the Long Walk almost feels timeless. It could have taken place in the 1940s or the future. Did you intentionally avoid anchoring it in a specific era so it would always feel relevant? And he says, I just wrote it. Didn't think about relevancy. I was a kid having fun, and all I wanted to do was impress a girl.
Oh,
Did you not know that? I can't remember if we've talked about it before, but yeah, he wrote it in college, and yeah, he literally was like writing it to like impress a girl.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So, and then another person asked, this is a fun one. When you go to the movies, where do you like to sit and what do you like to snack on? He said third row, so the screen looms over me. I will.
He's one of those.
I will pause to say though, I do not understand people who are like, I don't want to sit that close to the screen, but then they'll also upcharge and go to an IMAX screen where the screen looks like that anyway.
Yeah.
Like, I don't get it.
Yeah.
I
think it's a lot. It's especially a lot different now when you can like recline
back for sure.
Like I just did for those audio listeners. That's why I sounded so far away from it. Is you recline.
But then his snacks, he says, big box of popcorn with lots of animal sweat that they call butter, and a box of Junior Mints.
Yeah, dude, I fucking love Junior Mints.
He doesn't say whether he mixes them in though. There is a lot of people that do that.
There's some people that do that. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember posting something on
buttery Junior Mints. Just
there's something online because there's like two things. One, The Simpsons had the joke where Homer wanted them to put the popcorn butter in his Milk Duds.
Yeah.
Like, we're not supposed to put butter in candy. He's like, you're supposed to wash your hands after you go to the bathroom. He's like, touche, and then he takes it and fills the thing up. And then in the brilliant movie Whiplash, the dad does that. They get candy and dump it in the popcorn. I remember talking shit on that online, and I was roasted quite hard by a lot of people who that is actually a normal thing.
The one that I have actually witnessed is someone took a Reese's Pieces and dumped it in their popcorn, and I was like,
now if you had like
I could kind of get that because it's chocolate and peanut butter.
If you had like kettle corn or whatever it is, like the sweeter popcorns, but if I'm having straight popcorn, don't mix it.
I'm telling you, I'm not one of those people that mixes sweet and savory.
It's like those freaking frosty fry dipping people.
Oh, it's like there's so many people that love
Can't do
chocolate covered pretzels. Like they're good.
Yeah,
they're good.
Give me nacho cheese for a pretzel. So.
But I'm sorry, I'm not a huge fan of like biting into something that's that's chocolatey, that's sweet, and there's a whole bunch of salt. Like, no, that's not.
So you don't like peanut M&Ms then?
I hate peanuts.
So here's the next one. This is a really interesting one.
Which is weird because I love peanut butter.
Because here's one that we've actually, I feel like I've talked about a lot over the years, and I think we have too. What are the first 3 books you'd recommend to someone who's just starting into your work?
Oh, okay.
Any thoughts on what he might say here?
Salem's Lot. I'm hoping it's that because that's where I started. That's where you had me start. That's where I started my wife. So I'm hoping Salem's Lot. He's probably going to go The Shining. And then Love and 2263.
Okay. So he says, in this order, Salem's Lot, Misery.
Oh, that is a good one.
And I don't know if he's being just a
cheeky.
Whatever, but The Long Walk is the other
cheeky
one.
little bugger.
Because he's doing press for it, yeah. And he says, all of them are still my friends.
Oh, okay.
So that's not a bad opening salvo for the King realm for sure. That's not a bad.
I'm 2 out of 3 for starting my wife in her King reads. So
what? Wait, say that again.
I got 2 out of 3.
Oh,
She's read Salem's Lot. She's read Misery, but in between those, I did 11/22/63.
Okay.
Less horror, more romance, fantasy, sci-fi. I mean,
with its horror elements, of course.
I still maintain there's not much horror in that book.
Oh, there is.
Like if you did like a percentage.
Well, it's also almost 1,000-page book, though, sir. And then the next one, is there any particular reason why you run under the pseudonym Richard Bachman when it was released? Also, I have to say, if they were really smart, they would put Richard Bachman on the poster and the credits for both The Long Walk and The Running Man. They won't, but they should.
Yeah.
He says, quote, I had to publish some books under my own name. The publisher, Signet, liked The Long Walk and Roadwork, but they thought that too many books would glut the market, so I was published under the name Richard Bachman. So and that's pretty standard. I think everyone loves to insert the idea that he was curious if his books would be successful without his name at that point. And I think he's sometimes said that like there was maybe a smidge of that, but primarily it was that he wanted to get some stuff out. Although the revelation here, though, is the fact that the publisher basically, or I guess they thought it would glut the market. But there's also somewhere else, maybe it wasn't here, but there was somewhere I just read recently where he also said that like after he had his first couple hits, they basically asked like, hey, do you got anything else right now. Like, and that's where it's like, oh yeah, I wrote The Long Walk, however many years ago. I wrote, the some of these other ones. But then there's like the dual thing where they're like, well, we can't flood the market, where it's like suddenly there's 5 King books in a couple years. So I don't know. It's just kind of interesting. But it's one that we've kind of known. And then he said, and then the last one I have to cover here, what is the last movie or TV show that you watched that truly scared you? He said last TV show, Fall of the House of Usher. Ooh, so it sounds like King is a little late getting to that one. Last scary movie, Weapons. So that is those are 2 great picks there for sure.
I caught a scene of Weapons on the old Instagram yesterday.
Yeah, was it a woman?
It was a gas station.
Oh, okay.
That scene was and when I saw what was happening, I was like, okay, let's not I'm going to skip that. Let's go on.
Yeah.
I need to watch the whole movie.
I will say to be continued on the Fall of the House of Usher. Might have a little bit more from King on that. So
Sweet.
that's fun.
I need to rewatch. I still need to watch Haunting of Bly Manor. I still haven't watched that one at all.
Yeah. I need to go through and rewatch all of them, especially all of them except for Hill House, because that one I've rewatched multiple times. All the others are ones for me. I've only ever watched them once.
I thought you rewatched the Fall of the House of Usher around Thanksgiving last year.
Mm-mm. No, I rewatched Hill House.
Oh, you watched Hill House last year.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. I've done that a couple years in a row now. So, but that's what I'm thinking of.
That's coming up.
I know that's why I'm like, if I want to start doing it, maybe you should start thinking about it sooner than later.
Yeah.
Get some of those other ones watched. I also haven't watched the Midnight Club. Was that the one with like the younger cast and stuff? Yeah, that's the only one of Flanagan's I've not seen in the Netflix realm. So the next one, and I will also warn, the headline is not what we're covering, so don't anyone get all upset here. But the headline to the article is, quote, Trump is a horror story, isn't he? And that's a quote, Stephen King on villains, dark secrets, and dreams. And this is basically an in-depth interview that The Guardian did with Stephen King on August 13th, 2025 by Richard Pelly. This is there were some really good ones out of this. This ended up like spilling a number of these questions ended up like some of these things just ripple in my inbox. I just get suddenly there's like headlines all over the place.
Yeah.
And then when I went and looked at this article finally, I was like, oh shit, this is where like 2 or 3 different things like sprouted out of some of these questions and answers.
Oh,
so
okay.
So it's a Q&A type interview. I'm just going to hit some of the stuff I found most fascinating from the interview. If you want to see the full thing, check out the show notes over at darktowerpalaver.com. So the first one, you signed my copy of Christine with the words, keep on screaming for vengeance, because I was wearing a Judas Priest badge. Is music still important to you? And he said, yeah, music is still important to me. I moved on from Judas Priest because I couldn't get the rights to use the lyrics from You've Got Another Thing Coming for my 2008 novel Doom McKee, which is interesting. I never actually considered the authors had to get rights to put lyrics in a book, because it's not, I mean, I guess like whatever, but it's like, so you're telling me that King has to go and get the rights for like, I wonder how much of it is too, though, because I don't think if you just take like a line like in The Stand when he has like a line from a Springsteen thing, I don't think he has to get rights for that.
Yeah.
Or whatever. But like, I wonder if I haven't read Doom McKee, so I don't know if there's like extended like coverage of a song or something. That's interesting. I've just never thought about that before. Kind of like one of those things where in the Spider-Man games, they've had to change a couple buildings because apparently you can copyright buildings.
Yes.
That is absolute bullshit to me. Like, so, because like if you do something as a building, I just feel like that's public. So like to me, like
it's in public.
It's in public. So like, what do you say? Like, does a movie, like, if the Avengers are flying through New York City, do they have to worry about getting like copyright like releases because so and so building is seen in the background? Like, that's insane.
Yeah. What about like those skyline shots with like football?
Yeah. It just
like they always have those. Like, I mean, well, there's another one that I just saw. I watch wrestling, and WWE's coming to Salt Lake here in October October 31st in November, and they did a skyline shot of downtown Salt Lake, and it's like, so if any of those buildings are copyrighted, do they have to get permission to use that?
That's what I'm wondering. Like,
that's weird.
I don't know. Yeah. And like, it's just, that tripped me out. I don't remember what building it was, but it was like one of the more famous buildings in New York City. Like one that, tourists would go to and stuff. Cause I remember being like, oh, I wonder where, like, if they, like, where this is at. Cause I was even just trying to like get an idea of like what New York City's like, geography was through that game. Cause like, I don't know shit about New York City. I've never been there or whatever. So, and yeah, there's a couple buildings that were strangely missing. So
I just Googled it just because I wanted to see. I've never heard that about song lyrics and everything.
Yeah.
But now that you say that, there's well, there's a very popular song that had a woman screaming in it, and it's like, why don't you just put the name of the song? I've never understood why authors did that. Now I do. Do authors have to get rights for music in their books? Yes, authors typically need to get permission from the copyright holder to use song lyrics in their books. Simply quoting lyrics from a well-known song to enrich your novel, even with attribution, is unlikely to qualify as fair use, which is intended for purposes like criticism or parody. So copyright law does protect song lyrics, and using them in your books without permission is a violation. However, generally you do not need to require permission to be used in the book is the title.
Oh yeah, you can't copyright a title.
You can't copyright. So
No,
if you say they were dancing to,
yeah, which King does all the time,
yeah.
right? He's always calling out music and stuff.
But when he's quoting Bruce Springsteen in the like the book 1, book 2 sections, like the start, and there's always like those starting quotes. He apparently has gotten permission to use those. So
that's interesting. Yeah,
I don't know if he has to pay. Maybe he has to pay.
Probably not. Probably just gets permission. Yeah. And then he goes on and says, so I've moved on to Rancid, Nazareth, Anthrax, and Metallica. I don't listen to music if I'm composing directly from my... And this is interesting, too, because we've always debated this over the years. Like, because King does have all these, like, musical references you'll throw in books. And we're like, so is he just, like, listening to, like, pop music or rock music while he's, like, writing? And then he's like, oh, I like this song. So, like, like, there's a Kiss song playing when Jake gets run over and killed. Like, it's just... And it's just, like... This is just such a random poll, too. So it's like, and I've always wondered that. But he says, I don't listen to music if I'm composing directly from my head to the page. When I'm rewriting, I like to listen to club music, disco, or something with a repetitive beat that flows through my head and goes in one ear and out the other. Today I was listening to some Zydeco music and LCD sound system. I don't know what any of this means.
Tad, that's a...
LCD sound system.
That's what it. If I have it right, that's what it is.
I was like, is that a band? Because
no, it's like it is a band. LCD sound system is a band.
Oh, okay. Today I learned. And he says, I like North American Scum, Losing My Edge, and Daft Punk is playing in my house very much. And for instance, for years, I thought Daft Punk was an actual like genre. I didn't know that was a band.
Oh, okay.
And then it was like when that last Tron movie came out, or the first, not the first in the 80s, but the one that came out like in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
Like they said, like soundtrack done by Daft Punk. I'm like, it's done by a genre? And like that's when someone told me like, no, that's a band. I'm like, what?
Yeah, they're the ones that never show their faces, right? They always wear that.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I thought that was the Gorillaz or
LCD
Slipknot.
Sound System became banned in 2001.
I don't fucking know what any of this stuff means.
Yeah.
All right.
Genre, dance, electronic. Yeah, it's that kind of music.
So that's interesting. So even when he's rewriting then, so he really must just pull like rock and pop type music just literally out of his ass. Like, not that he's listening to it. It's like, oh, I like this song. Let me throw this Ramones song reference into my, like, no, he just, literally will just pull those.
Like his top songs from his younger days.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Because I've always wondered that, because the music selection you see throughout his books when they're mentioned is quite broad. Like it's not like you could see, like, look at it and go, oh, he's definitely a fan of band X because it always shows up. It's not the blue chambray shirt. There's not a band like that, right? So it's just, I've always kind of wondered, does he literally just have, like, we know he's famously a music fan. I'm like, so does he just have the radio on and, like, as he's writing, he needs a song and it's like, oh shit, this song is on right now, or the one that I just listened to, that'd fit great right here, and then he just plug, like, so apparently
like when
not.
he was writing Jake's Death, did Kiss come on the radio?
Yeah,
so
that's what I've always wondered, man. The next one, do you still go to bookshops and sign copies of your books when no one is looking? He says, if I can sneak in and out, I do. I last did it in a bookstore down the road from me in Western Maine and signed some copies of Never Flinch and You Like It Darker. I don't really like book signings because you can't do it for everyone. On my last book tour, I had to sign 400 books that were sifted at random from 1,000. So you only had a chance of getting one, but it was better than facing a line of people that never ends and where they all have 2 or 3 books. That's tough.
Ooh.
Yeah, I don't know how these people do it, man.
That.
I don't know how these people do those.
I saw one of John Cena sitting down, and he's like, okay, and he like he did like stretches with his hand, and then the guy's like, all right, you ready? And he's like, yeah, and he starts signing posters, and the guy's there taking posters away, and he's doing gone, 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 gone,
yeah.
And the stack, dude, was a phone book thick.
Yeah,
like just thinking about that, just like.
Yeah.
Dude, he's going to be there for 15, 20 minutes just for that. And then next to that, they had a stack of shirts. Next to that, they had a stack of hats. And I'm just like, My God.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit, that kind of
But-
sucks.
I don't think I've ever heard that before. The king will just sneak into a bookstore and sign books.
I never knew that either.
That's very intriguing.
Makes you wonder what's out there.
Yeah, exactly. Or who ends up finding, like, their parent passes away or something.
Yeah.
And they get their book collection. They find a Stephen King signature. And like, oh, they met Stephen King. Maybe they didn't.
Yeah, they maybe they didn't even know.
Yeah,
I don't know what his signature looks like. There's some signatures like autographs that you're like, what's that say?
There's one online. I can't remember. It was on one of the baseball subreddits, I think, and somebody posted it. Like, hey, my dad just passed away. I found this ball, and it was one that was like clearly, it's like it was a played ball. It was one that had been used, and like the signatures on there. And this is a common thing on a lot of baseball things.
I've seen it on football once. Whose signature is
dude,
this?
they ended up. Somebody's like, dude, you need to go get that appraised right now. That's a Hank Aaron signature.
Damn.
And I went and Googled it just to see, and like, yep,
It
dead,
looks exactly like a
dead
Hank
nuts
Aaron.
Hank Aaron fucking signature. I'm like, dude, that.
Oh.
Can you imagine?
Okay. If someone asked me, like, you can either like win money or inherit something cool like that, I think I would choose that.
Yeah.
Like that, the one that famously is like the Antiques Roadshow where the lady had the table. You ever seen that one? He's like, oh, it's good that you brought this in because see this, like it's a table and it's got the original sign. And she's like, well, how much is it worth? He's like, oh, it's only worth $750,000.
Yeah.
Ended up selling for like 1.5 at auction, and it's
Yeah.
just like she bought it for $13 at a fucking garage sale. Like,
Yeah.
God damn it, like
Yeah. And then the next one, the word prolific is often overused, but not for your output. It's not is not stopping a choice, or is it because you can't stop? He says it's hard to decide what to do with the 2 or 3 extra hours a day between 9 a.m. and noon. You can only watch so many game shows on TV. I can go for a walk, but then I'm just end up thinking about the next thing. Basically, man, I'm entertaining myself.
yeah.
So, and the next one, do you still write all of your books on Microsoft Word? And this is a new one. I didn't know that. And he says, as a matter of fact, I do. Like, Microsoft Word?
Right.
Come on, really? Sometimes, because that is such a frustrating program. I hate Microsoft's app so much. And I'm a Windows guy. I'm not a Mac guy by any means, but like, there's nothing that frustrates me more than some of Microsoft's softwares. He says, sometimes I will sit and write in the mornings longhand and then transcribe it, but I mostly use Word because you can go back and fix things. I'm not much of a computer geek, so if I have problems, I get my IT guy on the job. So,
How do I get that job?
yeah. Indeed. Or is it just like a grandkid or something?
Yeah. Owen.
Well, not Owen. He's up there in age too now at this point. Owen's probably closer to 50 than
He still
not,
probably
so.
knows a healthy bit about computers.
Unless there's an Owen Jr.
Maybe there is.
Why? In the next one, why is something scarier that has more the more legs it has?
Okay, spiders.
And he says there's some truth to that. I just finished reading a British fantasy novel called City of the Last Chances by Adrian Tchaikovsky. In it, there's a monster in a hole in the ground, which is like a centipede that has all these legs. When they dump somebody's body into the pit, it grabs them with all of its legs, punching through the flesh and chewing off their head. So it's really scary. The thing is, they're not like us. They don't look like us. They're basically alien creatures. Mm-hmm. So it's just a bit scary.
Yeah.
And I got to say, that might be on my list now.
You're
book.
like, well, hello there.
The idea of a giant human-eating centipede.
Ted's over here just like,
Hello there.
Yes, pretty much.
Yeah.
Indeed. Next one. What's the furthest you've gotten into writing a book and thought, nah, this is no good, and chucked it away? There's one called The Cannibals, which I set in an apartment building and had these people who couldn't get out, which I wonder how that turns out. It was sort of interesting, but I didn't know what to do with it, so I just shelved it and went on to something that seemed more doable. I was probably 200 pages in, which that's
holy
wild.
shit.
You tell me you couldn't release that as a short story? Come on, King.
Well, I think the problem is that if there's no ending.
It's just
like the one that he told about the bathroom at the airport.
Yeah.
God, that one still fascinates me to think about what that could have been.
Yeah. I do wonder, man, when he passes away, if the kids either go and grab some of those and then end up finding the finish themselves, or if they bring in like some of the best writers in the world
That'd be so cool.
to like finish off like some of these King works where it's
Yeah.
like King and
Yeah.
there's just years of like King and projects
Yeah.
type thing. Because again, there's a whole different economy. There's an economy now of what's publishable and what's not, because I'm sure there's even stuff he's finished that he just hasn't published because he doesn't think it's worth it. But once he passes away, that entire equation fucking changes.
Yeah.
Stuff that was not good enough to publish, we're all going to be clamoring for, like, give me everything he's ever written.
Yeah.
So, let's see. And then he says, you go until you can't think of anything else to say, and that's the end. So that was the last bit of his thing there. So the cannibals, though, that sounds fun. This next one, very, very fitting for us.
Okay.
Does Roland Deschain, and then it says in parentheses, the main character of King's Dark Tower series, wear a hat?
Oh, hat watch.
And then the question asker says, in my mind, he doesn't. My partner disagrees. Please settle this argument. Now, I'm going to say, in defense of the partner, there is many times that King talks about him holding his hat down. So there's no right or wrong answer. I've actually found some Reddit threads in the last number of months where people are like, does Roland wear a hat or not? And I always answer, I'm like, dude, yes and no. Like, it is legitimately, it changes depending on where you're at in the book. Though, like, within the first couple paragraphs, it says his hat he lost years ago or something like that. So, like, from there, it's like, no. But then when you go further, there's times where it's like, or his hat falls off his head and, like, the whatever you want to call it, holds it around the back of his neck. So all throughout the series, we end up seeing it. But here's the answer that King says. In some of the pictures, he wears a hat, but I never really saw a hat.
Okay.
So no.
All right.
So there is the thus saith answer of what King says. Roland does not wear a hat. Now, Mr. King, you've made some mistakes throughout the series. But I think it's just one of those things, like, when you're in the midst of the action, like, I just think, like, I don't think King's, like, mental image of Roland is, like, so solid that it doesn't, like, change. I think sometimes, like, just to show, like, the wind blowing or the fact that they're running so fast, like, you just get to one of those things where it's like, oh, well, naturally the cowboy, his hat would fall off. And it's like, so suddenly that image, even though that's solidified.
I could be wrong, but I think they buy him a hat in Took's shop in Wolves of the Collar.
In 5, I think so. Yeah, for sure. But we're talking a majority of the story, though.
Right.
Like, he doesn't have a hat, but, like, we did it during our book clubs where we had the hat watch, because it changes back and forth.
He does have a hat in the flashback in book 4, though.
Yes, I mean, when he's younger, for sure. Yeah. In fact, I think it even tells us what kind of hat, because the 3 boys all wear different styles of hats. So, it's kind of cool, though, and I was like, that made me laugh, because I'm like, we spent
hat watch.
Yeah, and it'll still come back. I mean, we've largely mothballed it for this book because, again, when we're in the flashback realm, like, it doesn't count. Yeah. But as soon as we get back to the present tense and move forward in the rest of book 4 and then into book 5, we're going to be on hat watch all the way through this series. So.
Hat watch 2030.
Yes, pretty much. So that's pretty fun. Next one, I'm going to art school, and I'm thinking about becoming a horror writer. What part-time jobs would be good to get some inspiration? That's an interesting question.
Art school, okay.
King says, I got some inspiration when I worked at a mill. We had to clean the place out, and there were a lot of big rats in the basement. I wrote a story about that, and then I was off and running. I think any kind of job that is manual labor, what in the U.S. we would call blue-collar work, is good experience for a writer. You don't want a job where you can sit in a clean, well-lit room and not have to clean up shit.
Yeah.
So that makes a lot of sense. When you think through all the things we've seen, you got to imagine some of the dirtier jobs that King has done is where some of this stuff comes from, right?
Like the car wash with Trash Can Man?
Car wash.
He works at the Scrub-A-Dub in Indiana.
Yeah. I was thinking something grotesque or horror that you were talking about.
No,
I don't
just
remember
like
anything terrible. Just working there, though.
Yeah. Hey, mister, you want hot wax? Like, dude, I could see, like, 14-year-old King working at a car wash, right? And just being, like, saying that exact line.
Yeah. When I first saw Stranger Things, it felt like a Stephen King novel. Do you agree? He says, I don't see it as a Stephen King story as much as some other people do. I think the Duffer Brothers give me more credit than I deserve. Like a lot of talented people, they grew up with my material. When they were young and malleable, they read a lot of Stephen King and said, we want to do something like that. But they're very talented guys, and the stories they've developed has a lot more than Stephen King. It's got a lot of Duffer Brothers in it. It's good. I've seen all the episodes, and I like it a lot. I think King's being a little humble there because there is plenty, at least in the early stages, there's a lot of King DNA in it for sure. But yes, it is ultimately their story, 100%. On the scale of, I don't know, Lawnmower Man, that technically was a Stephen King adaptation, but was so bad he sued him because it was so far from his book.
Yeah.
To Midnight Mass, that's not a Stephen King adaptation, but is a Stephen King adaptation. Yeah, I would
falls on the Midnight Mass side.
It falls much closer on the midnight mass side of things. Agamorphy says, the Lord King saith, and then he says the Mangler. What was I saying?
Talking about blue collar jobs and stuff.
Oh yeah. And I think there is a lot. Yeah, especially when you get into the short stories and stuff. There's a bunch of things you see where it's like, oh yeah, you could definitely tell that like King, at a certain point he grew up blue collar. He was blue collar for a good chunk or a chunk of his early adult life before Carrie hit it big and stuff.
Yeah.
So, and I think all of that shows through, and I think it really allows like there's like a salt of the earth nature to King's writings and stuff that it's appreciated. I think, and it makes it seem more real. I will say my one complaint, though. In fact, I actually noticed in this latest stand reread, Stu read Watership Down, and he said, like, I hated reading more than anything, and it's like, but I hated reading. I'll never read for pleasure, but the only thing I hate more than reading is wrapping presents, so I ended up just opening it to kill time. But then, like, later, there's multiple times that it references, like, a previous time where he read another book, or there's even a point in Boulder where he's, like, reading a book. I'm like, wait. Earlier in that, you said that he absolutely hates reading and he will not read, and like Watership Down was just like almost the exception of like the one time that he opened a book. And I get it, King's a reader.
Do you remember what he's reading in Boulder though?
I don't remember which one's the Boulder, which one's a flashback, but there's another time where it talked about like, I remember back in Arnett and like sitting outside. It was the Jim Morrison story.
Yeah,
I think it's like I was like sitting there in a plastic chair reading a book. I'm like, wait. The Watership Down thing says you would never read a book, so it's just
in Boulder though he's reading the law book. So it's
there's one where he's reading like a Western too. I think in Boulder too. You're talking about when he's doing like the research.
Yeah,
and it's
he has to read like the law book because they made him the marshal.
Yes, there's that, but there's also a point in Boulder where he's like reading like I want to say it's like a low end Western like when you'd buy at a grocery store, like not necessarily like high fiction by any means, which maybe that befits someone like Stu that would maybe get into that more than.
Well, didn't the Watership Downs change him for reading? Isn't that what he said?
It doesn't really say that, no.
Oh, it doesn't?
And again, I'm not faulting King because I get King is so entrenched in like literature. He's a writer, and you can't be a writer without being a reader. So like, and you write what you know, right? The same reason there's a lot of writers that are his main characters are like professional writers and stuff. So I get it. It's probably hard for him to even wrap his mind around people that just never read. And like, to be honest, like, there's going to be no one that's going to read his material that's going to be like, well, that doesn't reflect me because I never read, because they wouldn't be reading his material. So I get it, and I excuse him for it, but it is every once in a while where I'm like, he has these like sometimes just really stupid characters. I'm not saying this about Stu, but there's times you get really stupid characters, but then they have like this knowledge of like, they'll just reference some like, like one of those books you pretend to read in high school. Like they'll just reference something like that. It's like, dude, someone this dumb, they would never have read this. Like, I know people that are like fairly smart that like got the Cliff Notes to pass their test in high school and never read it.
Like
so
the guy that beats up Nick.
Yeah, Ray Booth.
Yeah, Ray Booth is over here quoting The Art of War. It's like, wait, what?
Yeah. So this next one's fun, and it's also slightly topical. If someone were to make a film of your life, who would play you?
Okay.
And we're not talking about a film of his life, but
we're talking about The Dark Tower.
There is something that we would say that, like, whatever. He says, I would love to have a good-looking leading man, but I don't think Brad Pitt could do it. He's a lot better looking than me, and I'm a little bit on the elderly side now. So I'd say maybe Christopher Lloyd, or who's the guy in Twin Peaks, the main tall guy, Kyle MacLachlan. I don't know how you say that, but that's the two that he said there. So
Gary Oldman.
I mean, Gary Oldman could play anyone.
Exactly.
He could play the stand that's sitting on the table.
Yeah.
So, Gary would be a good one. I mean,
I think honestly, Gary would very much pull off a good Stephen King.
I think the one that I really like is Bill Hader. That's been brought up before. I don't remember if it was an article or if somebody like emailed the show or something, but somebody said Bill Hader because he is such a good like mimic of people, but also like, well, I don't know. I've also heard Bill Hader for Dandelo, and I think that's a really strong pick though. But he's such a good like mimic that it's like you could almost see him mimic it, but he also has like that like charisma to him that would like allow like him to be a decent Stephen King or whatever. So
I was thinking an older King.
Yeah. And then the next one, when another film or TV adaptation lands on your desk, does it instill excitement or a sigh of despair? He says, I'm still excited when somebody makes a movie out of something that I've done. I was excited to see The Monkey earlier this year and The Life of Chuck. I'm very excited to see Edgar Wright's remake of The Running Man, which is filmed here in England, or filmed in England because he's doing the interview for The Guardian, but he's not in England. I don't write with movies in mind. I just write what seems like a good story that people and I will enjoy. Then whatever happens to it happens. That's fine. I like the movies, but I think they're different things, like apples and oranges, so to speak. So that's pretty standard that he said over the years. So, and Cody's laughing. Gary could play the stand sitting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Willem Dafoe. Willem Dafoe is a very distinct character look, though. I don't know if that would. I mean, he could do anything as an actor, but could the face really pass as King, though? That would be the question.
I think he could.
Or are we talking Dandelo for Willem Dafoe?
Yes.
Oh God, Willem Dafoe in The Dark Tower. That's an interesting thought. I mean, the Man in Black. I mean, I know he's on the older side now.
Jumps right out. Yeah.
But like, can you imagine him with like the hassock type thing? Like that would just be. Or is hassock the right term? No, hassock's the priest collar.
Cowl.
Like hood. Yeah, like type thing, especially in the first, like, because in The Dark Tower, like, I always like to picture him as like Randall Flagg with like the jean jacket and all that stuff. But in The Dark Tower, he has like that wizardy like cloak type thing going. And I think Willem Dafoe like peeking under that fucking hood over that fire during like the palaver. Like, can you not imagine that Gary Oldman's that Willem Dafoe smile?
Not only that, but picture him sitting in the bar in Tull.
Yeah,
and then resurrecting Nort. With the cowl over and everything. Yeah.
I mean, I also love the idea of like recasting Flagg in every season or so. Like every time he shows up, get a different actor, because I feel like that adds to like the mystique of Flagg.
Yeah.
Like he is a man of many faces.
He doesn't always look the same.
We just covered it in book 4 when he's literally changing in front of the people.
Yeah.
Who is it? It's one of the
Jonas.
coffin hunters where it's like
it was the one that met him and is like, hey, be on your guard, Jonas. Like, be ready.
He looked like my dad for a second, then he looked like someone else, and he's like transitioning. But it's every one of them are like traumatic people to their past. So it's like I think it'd be kind of cheeky for Flanagan to actually just like literally recast him every single time he shows up. And then going on, would you rather have the technology to teleport wherever you want, like the Jaunt, access to a pantry which allows you to time travel back to a single point, like 11/22/63, or an unassuming shop where you can purchase your greatest desires, like Needful Things? Has this person read these books?
None of those go well.
I mean, 11/22/63 is the only one that's not like disastrous, right? Like Needful Things, like you're not getting what you wanted, and it's going to end up in fucking tragedy.
Yeah.
And the Jaunt, like, I'm sorry, no one read that and went, I would do that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, at first you're like, oh, that's really cool, but then when you find out the details,
what can happen,
there's no fucking way. And King Answer says, I don't want anything to do with time travel because you'd mess things up. I'm afraid if I tried to teleport, my atoms would get mixed up with a fly. I saw that movie, so I wouldn't like that. My greatest desire, what would that be? Hey, I've got everything I want. I've got 2 pairs of clean jeans in my dresser. The thing that I really like is I'm sort of a shoe guy. I love shoes. I admire women because they get all these really cool shoes. I probably got 20 pairs of shoes, man. Sneakers, little boots, and things. When people see that, they say, oh, that's crazy. I bet there's plenty of women out there who are going to read that and say, I've got 50 pairs of shoes. So, didn't know he was a shoe guy.
Okay.
That's interesting. And then the last one, I have a very vivid and often strange dreams, which my husband jokes are like Stephen King novels. Has any of your work been inspired by strange dreams? I can think of one about an abandoned refrigerator that, when it was open, was full of these flying leeches, and I put that in a story.
That's an it.
So that was a King dream, apparently.
That's why it was so vivid.
Yes. So pretty cool interview. If you want to read the rest of it, there's some other stuff I definitely didn't touch on, but that was the shit that I found most fascinating. You could definitely find it over at the show notes over at darktowerpalaver.com. Next one here is an interview that he did, and the article is titled Stephen King on Dementia. Quote, I'm afraid of that happening to me. And this is why Will Pavia from the Times on August 30th, 2025. King talks about writing the life of Chuck and how one man dying sees the end of a universe. Quote, there's a word for that, and I can't remember what it is, King says. The interview took place from his study in his main home, where the article says that he still writes 1,200 words a day, 6 or 7 days a week. So
Nice.
that's wild. He hasn't slowed down on, like, he hasn't even chopped a day out to have like a full weekend or anything.
Nope.
That's
Well, like he was saying in the last interview, that's his me time.
yeah, exactly. Quote, it's the idea that we all contain worlds and worlds disappear when we disappear, he said with a frown. There's a word for that, and I can't fucking remember what it is. It then mentions it reminds him of Terry Pratchett, who was getting dementia, and he's the mind that created Discworld in 41 different novels. Let's see, and it founded this entire magical universe, and ultimately came to an end because he got dementia. Quote, that's what I'm afraid of, King says, who has written more than 65 novels plus novellas and hundreds of short stories. I'm afraid of that happening to me, and every time that I can't remember a word or something, I think, is this the start? And of course, it's not. King's talking about his fear here, but let's just say up front, like, he is not struggling with dementia, because if he is, I think all of us are, because how many times are we on this show being like, God damn it, there's a word and I can't think of what it is. Especially, I mean, he's not a spry chicken either.
No.
I mean, neither are we, but
we're not there yet.
oh man. It then says that he recently finished the third Talisman book. The article mentions
Oh,
that he has finished third Talisman book. We knew he was chugging away at it, but this is, I believe, the very first word that we've had that he's finished it. So again, this is another one of those. There's a few of these articles that I did where, like, there was multiple headlines coming out of them. For instance, like the music stuff, like some of this other thing, and that was another one that hit some headlines. That the third Talisman book is now finished. It's probably in the editorial process, which is pretty exciting. Agamorphy buried the lead. I didn't do it. I have thought over the years I should probably just start getting to the point where I actually just, like, do my own headline. But, like, we've done it for so long now where I use the headline from the article that, I don't know, it feels weird to try to do something different. But yeah, that's pretty huge. And also they bury the lead for sure, because, like, they just buried that in the article too. That wasn't even, like, big. That wasn't like a big part of the article. They just mentioned, I'm like, yeah. But then there's part of me that thinks, though, like, when these people that are interviewing, like, they kind of know King, but they don't know him like we do. So
Yeah.
I don't think did they even understand how big of that line is that they just threw out
They don't
there.
even know what Talisman 3 is.
Yeah, and they don't understand, like, the hype behind it and stuff. So, but yeah, my God, I'm very excited. 2026.
I think
Mark,
it is
mark
too.
my words. So then he goes on, quote, the same sort of thing, or the same sort of kids that are I'm sorry. So he starts then they transition to talking about the long walk and, like, kids dying and stuff. It says the same sort of kids that are pulled into the war machine. He says as he went on talking about his college years when boys are being drafted into Vietnam. It then says that King revealed to them that the one condition he had for the filmmakers for the long walk is, he said, the only way you can make it is if we see teenagers getting shot.
Jeez.
Which, like, let's be fair, that's brutal, And
Yeah.
like in our Discord earlier in the week, I think Chris from Australia was saying he's not sure if he'll even go see it because he's not sure if he can handle a movie like that.
Yeah.
And obviously all the marketing has made it seem like, I will say one brilliant marketing thing they did too. They did a screening of The Long Walk where people were on treadmills and they had to maintain a speed to keep watching.
Oh.
So that's pretty cool. But, like, they've obviously had, like, the censored things. They've had stuff like, I did see one where I just rolled my eyes because I'm like, oh, this is just marketing, where it's like some English doctor was like, oh yeah, we had a group of people watch the movie and their heart rates were at an alarming level the entire time watching the movie and stuff like that. So there's some of that where I'm like, is that real? It's kind of like the stupid, what's that new clown that they do with the killer clown shit?
Terrifier.
Yeah, like with those, like that last one that came out, the third one or whatever. They're like, oh my God, there's people throwing up and leaving and whatever. And I'm like, but what you don't realize when you go look into it, they just told people, like, hey, you want a free screening for a Christmas movie. And they just let people come in telling them it was a fucking Christmas movie to get those responses so that they can then have those headlines. So it's all
They found innocent people like Hayden before meeting you.
Or imagine, like, your parents
Oh my
winning a
God.
free screening to a fucking Christmas movie, and then that's what I'm saying is, like, it's a fugazi, like it's fugazi, like I always say that wrong because of the Wolf of Wall Street scene I love, but it's all a fake, and so I wonder with things like that too if it's real. But at the same time, like, I don't think it's unreasonable for King to basically tell them that up front. Like, if you're gonna, like, pansy it down to a PG-13 whatever, like, no, you're not doing it. So some of the brutality that this movie has might be thanks to King. Now that had a lot of headlines, is that revelation too. So let's see. Oh yeah, Agamorph says not my fault for bearing the lead. Cody says hope there's a heavy Dark Tower references in it, and then Agamorph he says 100% agreed. And we do think so too. We covered it pretty heavily. All the stuff that King was saying, we were starting to think another Dark Tower book was coming because of all the shit he was tweeting. So I do actually think there's going to be a lot more crossover with Midworld and the territories. So, and then another thing that King says that made a lot of headlines. Quote: if you look at these superhero movies, you'll see some supervillain who's destroying a whole city block, but you never see any blood. And man, that's wrong. It's almost like pornographic. I said, if you're not going to show it, don't bother. And so they made a pretty brutal movie. So he's basically saying that, like with comic book movies, like there's this level of destruction, but it's all very like sanitized. And like that whole thing of like
there's
everyone's
no
like
screaming person with his leg crushed by concrete.
Yeah.
And everything.
Yeah, and so like, and I think it's pretty fair. And also, I did throw it. I think in the Discord. Currently, the Rotten Tomatoes score for The Long Walk is one of the highest scores, not just of the Stephen King movies this year, but of movies in general. So, not one that I would have suspected being the best of the 5 movies we had coming out this year, but it sounds like rating wise, The Long Walk might be one of the more well-regarded films of the year, let alone Stephen King films of the year.
Currently holding a 95%.
Yeah, that's wild. That's like Mad Max Fury Road level rankings.
It's just Tomato Meter. 57 reviewers have seen it. No Popcorn Meter yet, obviously, because it's not out.
Mm-hmm. So a few years later, he was married to Tabitha and living in a trailer, and she was working at a donut shop, speaking of the blue-collar nature, and he was a teacher. Quote, I was thinking, what would it be like if there were a game show where people got killed, he said. You would have to presuppose a society that was kind of like 1984, where you had a bloody circuses. During the February half-term break, quote, there was a lot of snow, a lot of sleet, and it was hard to go anywhere, and he wrote the entire thing in a week and sent it to a science fiction publisher. So talking about the Running Man here. Yeah. And then he got a note back saying that they didn't publish dystopian societies, anything on with dystopian societies. So this magazine rejected it because it was dystopian. No. Then Carrie and Salem's Lot were published and did well. And then, quote, the paperback publisher said, what else you got? Oh, here's the thing I was referencing earlier. The paperback publisher came to me and said, what else have you got that we could maybe put under a pseudonym? And he said they didn't want to flood the market with King, so The Long Walk and The Running Man were both already written, so he was able to give those to them, and they were published in 1979 and 1982 respectively under the pseudonym Richard Bachman. So that was kind of the two-parter where earlier I was talking about that, where it's like they're like, oh my god, everything's going great for you right now, do you have anything else in like the drawer that we can publish? And but we're going to put it under a pseudonym because we don't want to flood the market. So it's kind of interesting fleshing out how all that went. As the interview was winding down, the writer asked King if he will keep on writing, and he said, and this could alarm some people, but never fear. I would suspect never fear. He says, quote, I have at least one more book that I would like to write, and beyond that, man, I'm not going to say. I like to go out where people are saying I'd like another one. So that is slightly alarming to hear that. But
I mean, I'm always going to want one more, so
yes.
It's been that way since 2004.
Yeah, and it's never going to stop. But I do think this one actually hasn't got as many headlines as I would suspect, because I do think that there's like an element there where you might interpret that where it's like, is King going to be slowing down here? You know, like we've all thought that we probably will see books even after he dies because of how much he writes. I don't think any of us have ever considered the fact that he might actually hang it up while he's still breathing. So that's interesting.
I've wondered that before, but it's just one of those things. Like, I just don't think he can.
Yeah,
I think we've actually said that on the show before, is that we're just like, I can understand that he's slowing down. I mean, we've had one book in 2023, 2024, and 2025 instead of 2.
Yeah.
So,
but then again, 2s aren't normal. When you go back through the 90s and the 80s, there are years there's just one book. So that it's not out of the. So it's one of those like spoils of riches where we have had those 2 and 3 book years, where now suddenly 1 book years feel like, wait, is that all we're getting?
It's also, I wonder if part of it was that he was a father then. He's, his kids are grown.
Well, he also had movies going. Like, there was a lot going on for sure. But there are times
between family and career.
We even have some years in the 80s and stuff where there was no books. There was a couple years. I think there's at least 1 year in the 80s and 1 year in the 90s there was no books at all. So, and then here's the part that could throw a little kink into what you were saying, though. He then asked King if he would continue to write even if he were not going to publish it. And he said, I think that might happen, but I'm too old to do the J.D. Salinger thing and write 4 or 5 books that are going to be sit in the desk drawer until after I die. So he does say that that probably won't happen. Now, that's not what he thinks, but again, I think the economy flipping after he does pass away, I think there's a lot of unpublished shit that might end up
It's
seeing
just
the
a
light
matter
of
of if he's keeping stuff or not.
Yeah, and I don't think he's banking stuff like that.
I wonder if there's, because like the story with like the cannibals, I wouldn't be surprised if that's been shredded and it's gone.
Maybe.
So I wonder if he's keeping that. That's the question that someone should ask him, is be like, hey, you've talked about a couple stories that you started and weren't able to go anywhere with. Are those sitting somewhere, or did you just toss them?
But I think they are sitting somewhere, because in the You Like It Darker, there was the one where he said like a son-in-law, when they were doing some moving and cleaning, found one, and it was the Answer Man, I think, right? And he's like, I just could never find a way to end it. My son-in-law read through it and went, you know what? This is actually really good. And then he's like, I was able to read it and realize that like the 25 years that had passed, I now knew what the rest of that story would look like. So I do kind of feel that he isn't one that throws stuff away or shreds stuff. But of course, that's just taking some small evidence pieces and expanding it further. So, and David says, random thought, mentioning the kids, and realize he never really talks much about his daughter. I think it's because his daughter is not really public facing. In fact, there was something I read I don't know if I covered it in the notes here, but there was something I read during the prep for this episode where it mentioned all of his kids, and it mentioned his daughter being a Unitarian minister and a yoga teacher. So with that, it's kind of like Ozzy has the one kid that didn't want to be part of the show or whatever, and like, so they just never mentioned him. And I think it's kind of the same thing with his daughter. I just don't think that because she's not public facing, she's not a writer, she's not co-writing books with him. I just don't think he doesn't bring her up as often. Okay, so next one here, we've got The Institute being renewed for a second season. I don't know if you heard about this or not.
Yeah, you told me.
Okay, so Denise Petsky from Deadline on August 22nd, 2025. My first thought was it's wild for things like The Outsider and various other shows that we've seen over the last half decade that could have spawned follow-up seasons that didn't. And now here we are getting one that seemed like it'd be open and shut, getting multiple seasons. It's kind of wild.
Yeah.
It's been greenlit for an 8-episode season 2. The show is the best performer that MGM Plus has ever had. Casting for season 2, it says, is not available right now, but more will be coming as we go. Quote, set free but hunted, new dangers await the escapees from the Institute, and I can't wait, said Stephen King. Because he ended up announcing this basically the day of the finale. He posts like, I got a tease at noon or whatever, and he ended up posting they've renewed for season 2. Quote, we've been so gratified by the response to our first season, which was a testament to the dedication of our fantastic cast and crew. We're thrilled that Michael Wright and everybody at MGM have enabled us to continue Stephen King's powerful and timely story. From this project's inception, we felt that there would be much more story to tell as our brilliant characters continue to navigate their ways of the dangerous world that they're facing, said Bender and Cavill. The Institute has thrilled audiences with its distinctive storytelling and exceptional performances that expertly bring the singular voice of Stephen King to the screen, said Michael Wright of MGM Plus. We're so happy to be able to continue and expand this chilling journey and dive even deeper into the secrets of the Institute in season 2. I haven't finished it yet, so I don't know where it ends.
Yeah, I haven't either.
I did this last week because I mentioned on Geekery Bites last week that I really fell off of a few shows, the Institute being one, Alien Earth. I caught up on Alien Earth this week, and the Institute's next on my list to now catch up on because I just fell behind on a couple shows and I had to catch up. So Institute's next on my list to catch up on. So
is Alien Earth done or is it still?
No, it's still going, but I had fallen. I was almost 3 episodes behind.
That's what I was wondering, is if you had finished or if there was just a couple episodes you had.
No, I finished I did one over the weekend after we recorded last weekend, and then I literally watched because then I was 2 episodes behind. Then I watched the last episode literally as like right before the new episode premiered, so I was able to just carry episode 3 and episode 4 and episode 5, and I was able to. Now I'm fully caught up, but there's still more episodes to come.
Gotcha.
So. The next up is a little bit of a surprise. The Running Man. Paramount delays Stephen King adaptation by 1 week.
Oh, okay.
This by Sophie Evans from Screen Rant on August 14th, 2025. Let's see. Agamorphy says, I'm aware King has a substantial archive in either his college or his library. Let's see. And then Agamorphy says Dead Zone had a good series that extended beyond the book. Yeah, that actually is true. There was some stuff covering that because I want to say Tubi or something recently got the streaming rights for that. They talked about how it's one of the longest King adaptations of all time because it had 4 or 5 seasons, so which
something
is
like
wild.
that, yeah.
But then again, the Dead Zone, that feels like it's one that you can almost see how you'd make that into a more extended series. It reminds me, what was that stupid show back in the 90s where the guy got the next day's newspaper?
Early edition.
Yeah.
I liked that show. Me and my dad used to watch that show.
I watched it too, but it was a stupid show.
It was a good show. Hey, 9-year-old Peter thought it was pretty cool. All right.
Yeah.
Plus, it had a nice cat.
But if that went on streaming now and you rewatched it, it probably wouldn't be very good.
Probably wouldn't hold up. No.
So the upcoming Edgar Wright adaptation of The Running Man has been delayed a week, and it will now be released on November 14th, 2025. The reporting is that this is done in order to secure access to IMAX screens that would have been unavailable the week previous, which is where it was originally coming out, because it was coming out the same week as Predator Badlands, which has already been confirmed to have an IMAX release. So now The Running Man is going to be opening the weekend between it's going to be opening the same weekend as that Stupid Magician movie and Neon's Keeper. Then a week after that, Wicked Part 2 comes out. So it's basically going to be nestled between Predator and Wicked for the IMAX. Yeah. It'll have an IMAX for a week. So that sounds like it's why they delayed it. Makes total sense. Yeah. As long as it stays in 2025, because that's when the book takes place, I'm happy. So, yeah. All right. I do have some Palaver topics, so don't worry that we're now moving on over here to odds and ends.
Okay.
Next up in the odds and ends, I will have this in the show notes to watch. There's no real way to cover this in a meaningful way here. But Mashable did a thing where 4 of the cast members from The Long Walk were sat down, and then the host read a line from Something King, and they had to guess what it was from. And it was very entertaining. I
should watch that.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. So
I bet you I could get them all.
I'll have that in the show notes. There's a couple tricky ones in there. I was like, "Ooh, yeah. That was a little bit more tricky, but not impossible, but definitely not a slam dunk. Not kind of a they weren't.
We all float down here.
Yeah, it's not stupid easy stuff like that. So it was pretty fun though. Next up, Life of Chuck has been an absolute hit on premium video on demand. In early August, it was ranked 9th in the streaming charts. The only things ahead of it were films like 28 Years Later, Lilo and Stitch, Thunderbolts, Materialist, and How to Train Your Dragon. So massive
blockbusters,
studio level films. So the fact that it held itself in the top 10 there sounds like it's doing quite well in streaming, which is awesome, because it is definitely one that got a much more limited release. And I do think that's unfair, because it was a great film, and I hope everyone checks it out. So
yeah, I loved it. I'm so glad that we went and saw it.
Yeah, me too. Next up, we've got King showed up to the Bangor bookstore for the release of The End of the World as We Know It. Just kind of cool. Found a little local news thing where it said that King showed up to meet and greet some people. I don't know if he signed any books.
We need to move to Maine so that this could happen to us, right?
You know what's funny is I actually thought that King had largely moved out of Maine, and he was mostly spending his time in Florida. So it's cool to see him still up there. I mean, I'm sure it's pretty hard for him to leave Maine at this point, but
especially since he doesn't like to fly, does he?
But especially in the summer, I bet he's up in Maine, and I think in the winter he's down in Florida. So
I would be.
That's what older people tend to do, right?
I mean, if I was rich, I'd do that. I don't want to drive in the snow.
I would be opposite. I would be like living in Arizona in the winter.
You're a weirdo, Tad.
I'd be living in like Phoenix in the winter and then coming up here.
This is why you want to live in Alaska.
That would be a fun place to live. Although it's getting way too warm up there these days. Plus earthquakes. They just have like a 7-point something.
They did have a
7.6,
I think is what it said.
Yeah, something crazy. We had our 5.7 earthquake here, and that was enough.
That was enough
for me. I was like, I know all the Californians suffer. Like, you guys are sissies, but I don't know, man. For earthquake country that we live in, we've not really had a whole lot in our lifetimes. No. So, and I think a lot of us for years after had some PTSD on that too. Where it's like, oh my god, was that an earthquake?
Especially since I live on 2 busy streets and there's a highway near me. It's like, is that an earthquake or a truck?
Yeah, pretty much.
And it was under construction, too.
Yeah.
So it's like...
that or working in a machine shop, too.
That doesn't help.
That doesn't help, yeah. So then the last odds and ends here I have is King talking about shitty horror movies.
I like that you put that in quotes.
That's his words, not mine. Quote, if you love horror movies, you've got to have a love for pure shit, he said. This is not because of... this is not aspersions on anyone, but you have to... but you have to turn into a kind of person who would watch Attack of the Crab Monsters 4 times.
Attack of the Crab Monsters. Hey, I know a Patreon hangout next year for us.
I looked that up. It is indeed a movie about crab monsters. This isn't like some weird,
just made up movie,
stupid title name, and then it's like nothing. Like what is it? Otto in The Simpsons walking out of Stoner's Pot Palace, and it's like a place that sells like kitchen goods. He walks out. That's totally false advertising. It's not one of those. It literally is the Attack of Crab Monsters. So
I think I know one of our Patreon hangouts next year.
He says, you know how shitty it is, but there's something that appeals to you, King concludes. It doesn't mean you don't want to do better. So, and you know what? I feel seen here, because I will say
You
there are
always had that opinion.
There are a lot of like what people would call shitty horror movies, B-rate horror movies that are just they're glorious. Black Sheep.
I was gonna say, Black Sheep always comes to mind when someone says like B-rate, C-rate horror movies or shitty horror movies. I always think of Tad and Black Sheep.
Yeah, Cody says lobstrosities. That's a good connection. Maybe
Yeah.
that's the inspiration for it there. So, no, I love it. I love all those. I mean, Sharknado is obviously one that got actually way more popular.
Yeah.
It got a little bit more coverage than your average B-rate horror movie would.
I
Snakes
mean,
on a Plane, things like that.
I still think we need to watch Zombie Beavers one of these times.
Oh yeah, I've actually thought about buying that.
Yeah.
Zombievers or Zombievers.
Zombievers.
Yeah.
Zombievers.
Yeah.
Zombie Beavers. Zombievers.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah, I know. Dude, I love those kind of movies,
Yeah.
man. The record shop that's just over the way here from me. They have a whole movie section. They have like a used section. There's like the one section of DVDs. They have like horror, and they have like $5 or less horror. And I
And
love
you're
going
like-
to that
You're like,
section.
ooh.
Yeah, because that's where it's just like the absolute fucking.
Yeah.
Just the masterful, like Attack of the Crab Monsters.
Maybe,
movies like that are in that section, and it's like, dude, when you're gonna go buy a $3 DVD, that's the
what
kind
you're
of that's
looking
the kind
for.
of movie you want, man. Yeah, I don't want some fucking Care Bears, TV special on fucking DVD. Give me some fucking Zombievers or something.
Not
So
unless the Care Bears are eating the children.
that would be fun. I'd be into that. Next up, we got three Uncle Stevie recommends, which it's been a little bit light on. He had been falling off of those a little bit. So the first one, returning to Fall of the House of Usher, he tweets Fall of the House of Usher on Netflix. I missed this when I was bowed due to hip surgery, but this is a case of delayed gratification. Scary, innovating, scary, involving with writing that's witty and movies that plot. There's a case
moves the plot.
or moves the plot. There's a case to be made that Mike Flanagan is being the Quentin Tarantino of horror.
Yeah.
Now that's an interesting thought there. Do you agree?
David just asked, what are the fucking Care Bears? Are they different from the regular Care Bears?
That's The Simpsons. Why does a Care Bear have a crowbar? I'm an intensive Care Bear.
Intensive Care Bear. David, are you saying you've never heard of Care Bears?
No, it's because I said the fucking Care
the
Bears.
fucking Care Bears. Okay.
Yeah, that's.
Oh, I get. Okay.
Yeah. There
Sorry.
we go. Light bulb went on.
Light bulb was
Slow to come on.
Yeah.
Like who is that? Bloomhouse? Who's the one that's title card has like that?
I think it is Bloomhouse.
Bloomhouse.
Yeah, my bad.
Oh man, bumper to bumper.
Shut up,
yeah,
dude. Come on.
I think Mike Flanagan. Comparing him to. I would say that Flanagan surpasses Tarantino in my mind because Tarantino is like very. I feel like Tarantino is like the attraction in and of himself, and I feel like his stuff's so very stylized, and that's why I almost don't like the comparison. But like what Tarantino is to film, I almost think Flanagan is higher than that when it comes to horror films. I think Flanagan is the best horror guy in the market right now.
I think what I would say is being said here is the Quentin Tarantino of horror is just simply the name. You see the name Mike Flanagan, you're like, that's going to be good.
And I think that the industry knows it because we just saw a trailer last night when we went and saw The Conjuring, and it wasn't even Flanagan, and he was executive producing, which pretty much means nothing. Like an executive producer a lot of times is like, we just want to put your name on our poster. And like, okay, cool. Whatever. In movies, that's the case. And so like, but that was like the first title card that came up after it. Like we saw like the little bit that the trailer showed is like executive produced by Mike Flanagan. I'm like, I remember like marveling at that a little bit where I'm like, okay, we're at a spot now where Flanagan's got that recognition.
I nudged my wife. We both got excited seeing that, even though I realized shortly after, wait, it said executive producer. Never mind. Like, Agamorphy says, and Flanagan is the Spielberg of horror. And David says, and Flanagan doesn't like saying the N-word.
Yeah, no. So I'm not like shitting on Tarantino by any means. I'm just saying that in my mind, Flanagan might be the top guy in horror, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Now, of course, there's a lot. That's hard to say because there's a lot of fucking great filmmakers with horror.
Yeah.
I mean, the lady that did the first Omen is incredible. Ari Aster, Robert Eggers, Krieger that just
Wu?
did Weapons.
James Wu? John Woo?
No,
Wu?
he's like an action guy.
The one that did Saw and then went to Aquaman.
Oh, James Wan.
Yeah. And then came back.
He's largely not actually
he
directing
came-
anymore.
He came back, didn't he? Isn't he doing a new horror movie?
Yes, allegedly he's doing a Lovecraft. Lovecraft movie.
Yeah, that's
So-
what we were all excited.
But
he did the original Conjuring. Yeah.
Yes, but he's largely more of a producer now. He's almost like he does that more. It's kind of like J.J. Abrams. Like for every one movie J.J. Abrams directs, he's like producing 10 other movies.
Yeah.
And James Wan's largely moved to that, and that's why I would like take the crown from him and say like the modern master of horror is no longer James Wan. I would say it's Mike Flanagan, and that's the only reason I would say that I think that in the horror realm Flanagan is higher. But what I would also say when I was listing all those other guys, because I think we're in a masterful realm of horror right now. I think the last 25 years of horror may be some of the best horror we've ever seen.
Yeah.
But the one thing I'll say with most of these guys is they're guys or ladies, because again the lady that did and Rose Glass that did Saint Maud, incredible.
Who did Hereditary? Was that
Ari Aster?
Yeah.
Yeah. But with all these people though, Mike Flanagan has like almost 20 years of shit under his belt now. When you go back to Oculus, is like I think in the early 2000s, if not like maybe 2010s. And he's been doing horror since then. And I feel like, so with him, he's got the longevity that some of these other guys don't, whereas like Ari Aster's only into like his fifth film. I think he's got four films under his belt at this point. And even a couple of them could be argued they're not even horror at this point with Ari Aster.
Yeah.
And I think that's where Flanagan, I'd rank him above almost everyone else, is just because like he's proved it for longer. It's kind of like in baseball when someone comes in and they got, they're batting a 287 or 3 something. Like it's like, okay, cool, but how many at bats do they have? Oh, they've got 50. Okay, call me when they've got 150, and we'll see what their actual average is.
It says Ari Aster's directed 12.
No, there's no way. Maybe his short films and shit, but he's not. Hereditary was
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Jesus, 8 of them are shorts.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's Hereditary, then it was Midsummer, and then
Beau is Afraid. Eddington.
And Eddington. Yeah, so fifth. Yeah, his next one will be his fifth. So because we don't count. I know IMDb lists that shit, but they really need to like I don't know, like take that out and move it into a different area, because like I don't care what fucking student film you worked on when you're in college, like that should list on your IMDb, because for one, it also pisses me off when I love a filmmaker and I go see that stuff and I can't find it anywhere. Like Flanagan has a couple of them on there too, and I'm like, I would love to go watch those, but they just don't exist anywhere. So but I do love the comparison though, and I do love that King's giving him his flowers, and it does sound like King really loved Fall of the House of Usher, and so I'll tell anyone from Stephen King Recommends aspect, if you haven't seen it yet, go watch it. It's incredible. There's a great scene in a club. Real gooey. Next one, it was a tweet. He said, Hostage on Netflix, not entirely believable, but delivers nonstop thrills. Reminds me of 24 with Kiefer Sutherland. And then on Blue Sky, he said, Weapons, confidently told, very scary, and I loved it. So, three.
Weapons is one that I'm kind of bummed I missed in theaters. I want to see it really bad.
That's really top shelf this year. That's probably one of the best ones of the year. So, let's see. Let's go on over to the Palaver side. Or did I just push? Yep, I did push the wrong button. That didn't feel right. Okay, so there we go. Going over to the Palaver section, we can do this for the rest of the time we have left, which is good. We have some time left. So I have 2 discussion topics.
Okay.
First one. If you're gonna get if King came to you and says he's gonna do a single spin-off book of the Dark Tower series, what character would you want it to be?
A spin-off?
Pertaining to, like, let's just say Salem's Lot didn't exist, and then Salem's Lot came out after the Dark Tower, and you'd see that as like a Father Callahan spin-off, and let's assume that he didn't tell more of the story in the Dark Tower than he actually did, because that wouldn't make that's not a great example. But let's just say King's like, I will write one more book of the Dark Tower series. Who would you want it to be, like, going behind? Would you want it to be Roland or whatever, or would you want it to like, or is there some characters in the Dark Tower? I guess that's what I was thinking about. Is there any characters in the Dark Tower series that are just like, God, I would love to know more about this person. And it could be because of the story. It could be because they're plugged into I almost said the Somber Corporation, the Tech Corporation. It could be because you want to see more of that. It could be because the character was just, they jumped off the page to you and it's like, I would love that. Or it could be like Susanna, to where it's like, I want to see what that other world looks like. Give me a short, a 200-300 page novel of, let me see what that world looks like. Let me see what,
with Susanna and the new Eddie and Jake.
Yeah.
And the new Oi. Agamorphy says, call me crazy. How about a story?
Yeah, like old Kojak getting his chapter in the stand.
We got the Good Boy coming out.
Yeah.
That movie about the golden retriever in a horror sense.
Yeah, the dog horror movie.
Dog horror movie.
For sure.
I mean, the obvious choices are still the ones that we've been clamoring for years. Give me the Battle of Jericho Hill. What happens to Cuthbert? What happens to Alan and Jamie DeCurry and all the other gunslingers? What happens there?
Yeah.
The other one also is, I mean, I'd love to see where we're going with Roland with the horn. We've talked about it ad nauseum and
so
everything.
how would you like to see that one? Just like, because you can't do a whole series. So would you just like zoom in on that last section of the seventh book and say, okay, what does that now look like with the horn?
Does Roland cry off? Does anything change? And everything like that.
Yeah.
Maybe just do like check-ins where you're checking in on Roland. Okay, we're going to check in book 3. We're going to check in book 5. We're going to check in book 7.
Yeah.
Something like that. Jericho Hill obviously is top for me.
Yeah.
There's a couple other characters. I mean,
if you separate
the Tech Corporation versus North Central Positronics is obviously up there too.
If you separated it from events, what if we looked at it strictly as characters? Is there any characters that just jumped at you where you're like, I would just love to see more of a, like for me, Cuthbert, for instance. If you gave me an entire like almost went through the keyhole thing, but it was just following Cuthbert through whatever it might be, like I'd sign up for that in a second because I love him so much.
What about if we got? We kind of got it with the went through the keyhole with Roland getting. Not his first mission. It's after Magus, but it's his 4th or 5th mission. What if we got Cuthbert's first mission after becoming a gunslinger, and he gets?
What
back
about
to
his trial? I think start it with Cuthbert's trial. And then into his first mission.
I don't think he has a trial. I think he's already had his trial. Roland kind of says it is that after the battle with Latigo's men, that they're gunslingers. So
from his perspective,
but
does the cultures recognize that?
I think that they earned their guns with that, stopping that conspiracy and everything. So, but what's his first mission that he rides out on after winning the trial and everything like that? If he has to do a trial and everything, what's Cuthbert's first mission? What's it look like when he doesn't have Roland there?
Yeah,
because we've only ever seen Cuthbert with Roland. So what does Cuthbert and Jamie DeCurry riding out on a mission together look like?
And that's what I was thinking with...
Or Roland and Jamie DeCurry go to the shapeshifter, and Cuthbert and Alan are sent on this mission.
Yeah.
So during the events of Went Through the Keyhole, Roland's over here. Alan and Cuthbert have to go deal with this.
Yeah.
Is Cuthbert in charge, or is Alan in charge?
Yeah.
Can Cuthbert shut the fuck up?
Can you imagine those two, that odd couple?
Oh, God.
Without Roland there is like the kind of buffer.
Right? Yeah.
That'd be brutal. It's like the ultimate odd couple. Now, of course, I would want the Cuthbert story to also include a beast of some sort.
No. We don't. No more beasties.
We want lots of beasts.
No.
Let's see. Agamorphy says Calvin and Paul Edgecombe's adventures for the Tech Corporation.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, what's his name? Cullum. Like is one isn't that the blue collar guy that?
Yeah.
I'm blanking on his first name though. John Cullum?
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. Okay. I was blanking on his first name for some reason. But like for him, for instance, that would be an interesting book too, because like he's so unassuming, but then like through him, you almost do like the R2 and 3PO thing where it's like you're seeing this whole grand thing through the perspective of like the smallest, most like humble character. So it's like imagine viewing like the whole Tech Corporation battle through John Cullum. And I know he's not because he ends up becoming like high up in the whole organization. But it's like I don't know, stuff like that would be interesting for sure. Deep No is definitely a character I love.
It's Aaron Deepno, Moses Carver, and John Cullum are the three.
But I'm just saying, Aaron's one that I would be interested in potentially spending some time with, except the fact that Calvin's probably going to come along with him to an extent, and I'm not sure if I want more of him or not.
I mean, that's the thing is like if you do the Tech Corporation, Calvin's not there, so he's not part of that. It's those three are kind of like the founding fathers of the Tech Corporation. So
yeah. What about you as a book 5 person? Anyone in the call that you'd want to see, like what happens at, like maybe see what the call looks like after Roland's?
I think it would be really cool to see them send out a writer, maybe someone like the Jaffords, or like a young, I don't know, like we don't really have a Benny Slightman Jr. comes to mind, but we don't really have another character like that. So introduce a new character that's 16, 17 years old that gets on a horse and starts Paul revering it. The wolves can be killed, trying to convince the different guys Because remember, they're not the only ones getting raided.
Yeah.
And we don't know. Do
you-
we
do you-
find out that there's more wolves?
I was gonna say, I think there may be only one, and that's why there's such a. It's almost like when you farmers have like the different crop regions,
you rotate fields,
and you rotate where you're harvesting.
So you
harvest
go get,
this
you,
one,
yeah.
and then,
You go get Colibrin Sturgis this year. The next year you go get Colibrin Wises, and then the next year you go get Colibrin Kansas, and you know, and everything like that. So
but you have to go and find all the other Andes and shit because you know you're gonna have that in every society, right? So it's like,
but imagine if someone rode into a town and it's almost like a mystery. You can even make it like a mystery where he rides in and he's like, "Hey, the wolves are dead, but there's a traitor in your midst."
Yeah,
and they're like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "We killed the wolves. The wolves are dead."
Or I wonder if it's not even a robot in every place. What if you have you have the people,
you
and
have the Benny Slightman the senior.
Yeah, so you maybe have that too without even having Andy or whatever. So yeah,
Megamorphy says there's a female gunslinger in the comics that could be expanded.
Yeah, I forget her name because they were gonna put her in the Amazon series. God, I'm blanking on her name. But yeah, because we talked about it. I think when we read the one screenplay, and then we talked about it on the episode. Because or did they make Jamie a girl in the screenplay?
They did.
That's what it was.
Eileen Ritter.
Yeah, but Eileen was in it too. So Eileen was there, and then they made Jamie.
She is the niece of Court.
That's right. That would be interesting too. Court would be another one to be interesting to me.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine what
is he a gunslinger? Is he not? That was something that we had a debate about.
Yeah.
So
I feel like he has to be. I feel like he'd be like, again. I guess we don't do it in our society, but like the people that teach the kids should be like the most highly revered, right? Like I feel like he would be like of the highest honor because it's like we're literally trusting you with the entire future of our society. But Core would be an interesting one where it's just like, what does that look like from his perspective? You know, we've seen it from the kid's perspective, but it's like, what does it look like for him on a day-to-day basis? What does it look like for him?
What does it look like when he gives the generation before Roland their trials? Imagine if it was just that it's the book about Court giving 5 boys his trials. Or, hear me out, what if we see Court's father and we see the trial of Eldred Jonas?
That'd be something.
That would be something, right? To see Jonas and you're like, I know what happens to that little shit.
Yeah.
Then you find out, see, this is where, don't do it, King. Don't make him sympathetic. I'm so fucking done with that.
Nothing would make him sympathetic.
I'm so fucking done with that.
Nothing would make him sympathetic.
Coming from a broken home and he's an orphan. And
now, we have gone a long way without saying Rhea.
The conclusion of Rhea.
Because if you told it through her perspective.
So I actually have a note about that since we're in the Palaver section. It came up on the book club for those of you that don't listen to the book clubs. Of why Tad, do you want to explain?
I don't remember what you're talking about.
The Rhea versus Cordelia debate. That we're going to have. So, do you want to highlight it?
So basically,
it's your thing that you came up with.
We said it early on in the book club where I'm like, back in the original March Insanity was in 2019, and we covered the most hated Dark Tower character, and it came down to the finals of Cordelia versus Rhea. Rhea won it in a pretty well of a landslide. I don't think it was like in the 90 percentile, but I think it was like 60 to 70%. So Rhea won a healthy victory. Maybe it was 60-40. That sounds a little bit more realistic for probably what it deserves as well. But the one thing I've said pretty much since we started this book is, and I think I've said it even before we did the book club, is I wondered, like, is Cordelia not get enough credit for who she is, for being like as hate, like, does she not get enough credit for being hated? Like, do we just give Rhea the crown and we're not really analyzing it? And I remember saying it early on in the book club where I'm like, you know what, this entire time we need to keep this in the back of our mind, and maybe at the end of this entire book club series, and we don't have to wait till the end of the book club for the book itself.
Right.
We just have to wait till the end of Roland's story.
Right.
And then maybe we'll come over here to a round table and we'll literally have a
Rhea versus
Cordelia. We could do like a summit, like the flag summit, and we could both take sides, and if we have a strong opinion, we'll take those sides. If we both think the same way, one is allowed to play devil's advocate and whatever. Because I really think we're never going to upset the vote. The vote will always stand as the 2019 Rhea is the winner there. We're not relitigating that in terms of whatever.
Recount.
Yeah, we're not doing that. But I would like to revisit it with the story fresh in mind, because I do think that Cordelia
also with the deep dive. That was the big thing, is that that going through the book club, instead of a 10,000-foot view and just our memory of it,
having seen every blow by blow,
every little thing,
every blow up, every argument,
and some of them are like back to back too.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing, is like when you're going through the scene, it's like, God, she was a bitch in that scene, but you kind of lump it in as one. But when you're going through that individual line by line, you're realizing that there was 7 different jabs, 2 physical assaults, and 3 emotional jabs at her. So it's like, I looked it up just because I was curious. Rhea won 58% to 41%.
Oh, so it was so 60-40. I was pretty close by saying that.
Yeah.
So it was, again, I knew it wasn't a landslide.
90-10, yeah.
No, it wasn't a landslide. I knew that, but I knew that it was a healthy victory. It wasn't a 1-vote victory like Eddie and Oi.
Yeah.
So I basically said that, and I've even said it, I think, before the book club, though, where I was like, you know what? Because there is the one thing that that always sticks with me is like, and I think I voted Rhea too, so I'm not necessarily saying the voting people were wrong because I voted the same way. But the more I thought about it over the years, the more I thought, Rhea's a witch. She's supposed to be a witch.
Yeah.
Cordelia is like the caretaker for this fucking child.
Supposed to be basically her replacement mother.
Yeah, and I, of course, in like fairy tales and shit, the stepmom or whatever, the what do you call it, like stand-in parent is usually a terrible person. But that doesn't excuse her. No. She should be the person that has the most she should be looking out for Susan the most and protecting her the most, and she's doing everything but. So I just think there's been an argument in my mind pretty much since 2019, and I do think on the heels of this, I do think what we should do is have a Palaver section after we finish, which is, I don't know when it's going to be, but we just got into the 9th subchapter, and there's 10 subchapters total for that section that will finish up the Roland story. So we are literally in the final. I don't know what the page count is, but we're in the final 2 chapters, not subchapters. We're in the final 2 chapters of Roland's backstory, and we know that we've got to go like the journey back home. We've got like the mom stuff. We got some other stuff to cover. So I really think Charyu Tree might be happening this year. And I think by the end of that, well, no, we got to count Rhea's stuff with the mom and stuff too. So we probably got to wait till we're back up to the present tense. And then we can have this discussion in depth about Cordelia versus Rhea part 2. And again, 2019 stands. Rhea will always have that crown. But I want to have a conversation now with this book fresh in mind and just rediscuss it.
So with that, I did have one thing that came up on our last book club, because it did come up again, where Tad he was going off on Cordelia. And in the spoiler section, you were talking about why, maybe it wasn't the most recent book club, maybe it was the one before that, why Rhea doesn't get so much hate and everything like that. So I do have one thing that I wrote down, and I was saving it for a Palaver because it's not
a round table.
A round table, not a book club.
Yeah.
I really wonder if the hatred for Rhea is due to the fact that she is the last one
and she doesn't get an end.
She doesn't get an end, but also, dude, I forget it every single time. He tricks Roland into gunning down his own fucking mother.
Yeah.
So not only is she a part of Charyu Tree.
Yeah.
Let's be perfectly honest. That's not just Cordelia.
Yeah. Tries to blow everything up. Purely out of spite. It's just a matter of Susan was lippy, and everything that she has against Susan is all from that. It's like because she was lippy.
And then she wants to hurt Roland because
of Ermont
defended himself against a fucking venomous snake coming at him from ambush.
Editorializing, I see.
That's not editorializing. That is literally play by play. I can read the section where he drops from a fucking tree.
You may as well say the evil snake.
It is an evil snake. It's a witch's snake.
Slimy snakes too.
God damn it, Tad. That's so gross. But I just think that yes, in the moment when you're in the middle of the book, there's an argument to be had for Cordelia. But when you step back, when you look
the whole story,
when you look at the whole story, and especially the most heinous things that Rhea does to Roland, have not happened.
No, I know.
So when you get there, and the fact that she doesn't get any fucking
Cordelia
just drops fucking dead.
When we move over to the part 4, which means that we're done with the flashbacks in total, that's when we'll have the discussion for sure. And in fact, I could probably go back through. I will say though, when I broke out kind of how the rest of this book's going to go, and I found like the date, I did screw it up a little bit because even the last episode I had to add a subchapter in than what I originally had broken it out.
Yeah.
Because like we were like midway, like halfway into a percentage. And I literally got to the percentage that we needed to get to, but I got right to it, not halfway in. Yeah. So there's one extra subchapter. So I got to recalculate everything. I don't think it'll change our dates. It's just going to slightly change things.
How much in one of those episodes?
But like I wonder if we could even just plant a flag in like a round table and say that this is the point that we're probably going to be the previous book club, we will have finished Roland's backstory, and we will the next time we do the book club, we're going to be back with Roland and Oi on the freeway, and Jake and Eddie and Susanna, and we're back there, and we're going to carry our way through the rest of the series,
and that's where we could have
that's where we're going to have the discussion, because I agree, we got to consider, we can't just like end Charyu Tree and then do there, because I think that would be thumbing the scale.
Yeah, it is.
But and again, they're both culpable in that, because Cordelia was just as much a part of it.
And that's what I was saying is like let's remember, Cordelia couldn't have done Charyu Tree on her own.
Yeah,
that's something that I've been kind of sitting on as well, is that Rhea is the reason that Charyu Tree happens, not Cordelia. Like, Cordelia's there and she's doing what Rhea asked, but Rhea's the only one who knows where Susan is. That's the whole reason that she gets taken. Otherwise, she gets away.
That snake loves chewing the devil's weed.
Oh, God, gross.
Yes, that is glorious. Oh,
David
man.
said, one time I accidentally thought it would be funny if they were chanting Charlie Sheen at the bonfire, and now that's all I hear. Instead of Charyu Tree.
Yeah. So we will be doing that for sure.
Yeah.
And I do think that I've been thinking that pretty much the couple years we've been doing this book, where it's like, I just don't, and I'm not saying the vote was wrong. I'm just saying that I do think that like the big moments are way more Rhea. And I wonder if because of that, when you like remember the highlights, not the entire game.
Yep.
When you remember the highlights, sometimes one player looks way better, but when you go watch the game, it's like, oh God, the highlights kind of deceived you a little bit. And I do kind of wonder if the highlights deceive us and making us think that Rhea is absolutely 60% vote worse than fucking Cordelia. Because in my mind, man, I think that should have been like a couple votes off. Like, because those two are both so fucking deplorable. They're both so fucking
They are.
bad.
That's why they were both in the finals. I mean, that's the thing.
For sure. But I also do think that us never getting a resolve on Rhea changes the equation. And I really wonder if that's what carried her to the victory, because there is that aspect. When you have a really fucking hated character, they're usually built because you are going to get a payoff for that end. And to not get that...
Oh, if I didn't get a payoff with Mrs. Carmody, she would be the most hated character of all time.
100%, yeah. So
even, not even for just me who hates her, but even like everyone else.
Yeah.
Like, could you imagine if they just escaped the grocery store and then
she was on that truck? She's on that truck with the drive-by as Mrs. Carmody.
God.
Can you imagine?
You just made the Mist ending 100 times worse.
Holding her Bible against her chest.
And she just does the cross to him.
Oh my God, dude, that would be...
I'd kill her. I'd kill her. You were going to sacrifice my son and everything like that? I'd kill her.
I don't think his mind is in a realm of that kind of thought at that point, though, so... we do have a few more minutes, so I can get to the other one we got here. I know we're over on the hours, but we did start a little early, so which works out. My next one, if you had a choice, totally independent of the Flanagan series,
okay,
you're given a choice. You got one of three things that you can get, and now this could even be a thing that could help you go towards getting the Flanagan series greenlit. But all three of these things, you could have any of them. All of them, for this hypothetical, would end up being very successful, very well received, very well done.
Okay.
You either get a Dark Tower entire comic book run, all the way through, because we did end up getting the one that basically covered the backstory, and then I think we ended up covering through Gunslinger and a little bit into the second book before they ended up canceling the series, so we didn't get the whole story. So an entire comic book run, or you can get an animated/anime series all the way through,
okay,
or a video game for Dark Tower.
Ooh.
And again, it could be for your enjoyment, but there also could be a strategic aspect of like, this could also help Flanagan get a green light. Because let's just say it's going to come out, January 1st, whatever it is you're talking about here. So we don't have to wait 5 years for them to develop a fucking, A+ level fucking video game. But it's coming out January 1st. You have a choice of those three things. For one, your enjoyment, but also two, secondarily.
And how much do they influence the Flanagan series?
I mean, because I think they would all be very well done, and they would all be, most likely, you'd hope they'd be well received. I'm not going to guarantee that, because, Yeah,
because I think the problem, I love video games. Don't get me wrong. I fucking love video games. But if we're going to have that influence it at all, I got to go with...
Agamorphy says anime.
I got to go away from video game, because how you do the Dark Tower... There's a couple different ways you can do a video game, and none of them fit the actual aesthetic of the real Dark Tower. There's not much action. like realistically, when you look at the Dark Tower series, there is not
but
that much
but
action.
I know, but there's a lot of video games that aren't that way anymore. Like video games aren't completely dependent on action anymore.
No.
I mean you got like all these like investigative games and stuff. You got all these kind of like
Sure.
like video gaming is in a wonderful spot now, and even like the Mortal Kombat you just played, one of the more recent ones.
Yeah.
Like this whole idea of how they tell the story, where it's literally just cinematics, where every so often you're just dropped out of the cinematics to allow you to play. Like it's
Yeah.
almost more narrative than it is actual playing when you're playing through.
I guess I was thinking more of like a Red Dead open world kind of game.
Yeah.
That doesn't fit the Dark Tower. So
No,
that's-
now I think you could do open world a bit, but you'd have to be a little bit more structured,
Yeah.
like more controlled with like when things get unlocked or whatever.
you can go to this area and do the mission, then you can go to this area and do the mission. You can't go to area Z first. You know,
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
thing. Like you can in Red Dead 2, where you can just be like, okay, I got to the camp. Now I can go get that white Arabian. You know, that kind of thing.
So let me just let's parse it out. First one, Flanagan series has nothing to do with it. Just your enjoyment. You got those three choices.
First one, comic book series.
Okay.
I think I would enjoy the comic book series more, and then a video game, then anime, in that order.
Or animated. It doesn't have to be anime. You can have an animated thing too,
Yeah.
like DC, Marvel animated. You could do that too, because that's what I would do, because I'm not an anime fan. I know a lot of people are. The style just doesn't appeal to me. So for me, I would probably go video game, just because like for me, I would love that so much. And then I would probably go. I'd probably go video game, then comic book, then animated. And the only reason being is I would hate it to get to a spot where if we're removing the Flanagan part of the equation, I would hate it to where it's like that becomes like the definitive thing, where now they're like almost scared, where it's like, well, that was done so well, why would we want to try that in live action?
Right.
The video game thing, it would be selfishly, I would enjoy it a lot, but also like things like The Witcher. The Witcher was a book, but it was the video games that really helped that become a TV series, right? Because the success of the video games, they were like, oh shit, we got a built-in audience. It's more than just because as much as we are on this podcast and all of our listeners are readers, reading is not nearly as broad as video games or movies and stuff. So it's like when they're looking at
how many copies has GTA 6 sold already?
Yeah, exactly. And that's versus like reading, where it's like sometimes like there's like these things like, how long did it take them to make a fucking Wheel of Time series? I mean, Lord of the Rings, it took them 50 something years to make a fucking, well, they did that animated fucking
Hobbit,
smoke some fucking pot and watch it thing. But they didn't, it took them.
Even the Wheel of Time got canceled. So it's like,
like for sure.
There's
there's outside sources that happen there, though. I think the Bond $1 billion alleged payoff to buy out the
Agamorphy says, I would not want a video game, not my cup of tea, which makes sense. Not everyone plays video games, so I think a comic book would be amazing. Animated.
And that'd be a stout comic book too, man.
It would be.
You'd probably have to do like almost 10 years of comic books to go through the whole story.
It would be a slog too to go through and read them and look at the art and everything like that. I think I'm going to change my answer. I think I'm going to go with an animated series, kind of like the like you said, like the DC animated movies that I love. They could do it really well. They could do it.
All right,
amazing.
see you, Agamorphy.
See you, Agamorphy.
Mark Hamill could do a voice there.
Mark Hamill would absolutely do a voice. Hell, he could do the Men in Black if he's going to do just
voices.
acting.
Yeah. He could do it. Make sure he does Blaine too. That's all. Which he could do.
Yeah.
Modulate that voice and like have him do a different performance, and suddenly
people would be like, "That sounds familiar." And wouldn't that just be like the flag thing to be a Psycho Train?
Yeah.
Like he recorded the voice hundreds of years ago for the old ones.
Yeah, indeed.
That actually is fan theory. Blaine is Flag.
I knew I liked Blaine for a reason.
Yeah.
I knew I loved the cut of his jib. But that'll do it for this episode. It was just a few questions I had that was just like, I don't know.
Those are fun.
All right, so let's go ahead and hit the outro stuff real quick. If you want to subscribe to us on any podcasting delivery service of your choice, you could do that. You could stream us on Spotify, Amazon Music, or Audible. If you want to join us for the live streams, you can do that over here at youtube.com/DarkTowerPalaver. If you want to subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications, we would appreciate that. And if you want to find the show notes for all the links for all the things we covered in this episode, you can find it at darktowerpalaver.com, including that one in the odds and ends where it's the 4 cast members of The Long Walk guessing Stephen King. And I'm unsure if it was like from the books or the series, like or like the adaptations. Like in most cases, from my memory, like it could have been either. Like if they would have been quotes, it would have been in both the books and the series. So it's ambiguous, but it's kind of fun to watch them go through it there. And at one point, the host threatens, "Oh, if you get one wrong, you get shot." And then if you can find out darktowerpalaver.com. Join us on Patreon if you want to support us at patreon.com/darktowerpalaver. We have our monthly hangouts, our Discord server that you have access to at any level, and then you can host a show with us if you're at the highest level. Then if you want to contact the show, Peter can let you know the ways to do that.
Best way is through email. It's show@darktowerpalaver.com. And then all our social medias are Threads or Instagram at darktowerpalaver, all one word, no spaces. We have our Blue Sky account. It's at darktowerpalaver.bsky.social. Our Twitter is at darktowerpod. That's at darktowerpod. And then our Facebook is facebook.com/darktowerpalaver. And pick up some merchandise, tpublic.com/users/darktowerpalaver.
All right, yeah, and that'll do it for this episode. We'll be back in not a fortnight because again we have this is actually a week earlier than we normally have, so we won't be back until the 27th. So yeah, what is that? 21 days from today?
Yep.
Yeah, I guess 3 weeks. Duh. Sometimes I forget the weeks are in blocks of 7. But that'll do it for this episode. We'll sign up so we always do by saying long days and pleasant nights.
Long days and pleasant nights, folks.
Oi.
All right, everyone in the chat, thank y'all for joining. Thanks for being part of the conversation.
Yeah.
I do apologize. Peter only reminded me right before the show that I had forgot that I did not change the date, so that's probably why we had a little bit less turnout, because there's probably people not thinking that we'd be back a week. Because we also forgot to say it till the very end of the episode, too.
End of the book club, yeah.
Yeah, so apologies about that. But yeah, thank y'all for joining us. You guys are awesome. I love having you guys part of the show. It always, I don't know, livens.
That's why you ring the bell for notifications.
No, because I didn't change the fucking time. So
no, when you go live, it notifies.
I know, but people didn't had plans. They were doing something else because whatever. I mean, also college football just starts. There's probably a lot of people at games right now. So
Probably.
Got to fill up those 100,000 people stadiums. So
Good Lord.
all right, see you guys in 3 weeks.
Bye, everyone.